Welcome to Nintendo Voice Chat for the week of, what week is it? I don't even know. June 29th, 2016. I'm still in a post-E3 time warp, and this is your favorite Nintendo podcast on IGN. My name's Jose Otero. I'm joined once again by Brian Altano.
What's up?
By Peer Schneider.
Hello.
And a couple of quick plugs for you. First of all, don't forget, NVC has a YouTube channel. You can find us by searching youtube.com/Nintendo Voice Chat. Just do that. You'll find us really quickly. Surprise, we have a live show coming up on July 7th. What? We're very sorry for the short notice to anyone who's interested in coming, but it will not be live streamed. It is only going to be recorded live at IGN, and then we're going to put it out. But there may be prizes associated for people who were not here. So just because you can't come doesn't mean you may not have a chance to win something. I'll expand on that next week when we have one more week to go.
So it's a meet and greet, right, in our offices here at IGN.
6:30 to 9 o'clock, I believe.
July 7th. 6:30 in the evening. There is a link on the website. You got to sign up for it because there's limited space, right?
Eventbrite.com.
It's free.
We'll have it in the notes for this episode as well.
And you can say hi to us, and we'll do a live episode for you, and you can ask questions all that.
It's here in San Francisco, so if you live in California or within driving distance of anything, take the afternoon off, come see your friends at NVC, come hang out with us, win prizes, eat food. I think, is there food?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you get free food, and there's no excuse.
Yeah, and you get to say hi to us.
And if you're not old enough, bring your parents.
Yeah.
We'll
Please bring your parents.
With random
NVC,
Nintendo
your
stuff.
parents help you set it up.
That's right.
just like your first Nintendo. More importantly, sorry for the last minute notice. Sometimes these things happen. We've been wanting to get better at this, and this is actually the third time that we haven't. So I just want to throw a sincere apology out to you. We want to get better. Please understand.
Like a flash mob, kind of like a...
Yeah, but we are very appreciative to those who
Yeah.
have shown up, because the other 3 times we've done this, there has been a very passionate community that has shown up, and we're thankful for that. And we don't want to act like, at the same time, folks who live further away, we don't want you here. Obviously we do. We will get better, I promise. So let's move forward. We have a big show for you this week. I'm not kidding around. So first, we're going to go through some quick preview impressions, because we should get them out of the way. Then we're going to kick over to post E3 and Nintendo impressions, talk a little bit about our experiences with Zelda, which we didn't really get to talk about on the Trinan episode because everything was still so fresh. And I feel like after E3, we all kind of spent a lot of time thinking about this game. I know I did. And just Nintendo in general, where they are in the marketplace. And then lastly, we're going to switch over to news. But then after that, we have a break, and we're going to come back with Pokemon Go impressions, because the field test has ended, but IGN was able to get in. And so I'll be joined, hopefully, by Kallie Plagge, Miranda Sanchez, and I hope he can make it, Andrew Goldfarb, who had to go somewhere but is willing to come back to record that. All right, let's go through the preview lightning round. Real quick thing to point out, we will be going more in depth on this next game next week, but Tokyo Mirage Sessions, the review is finally up on IGN. We apologize for the wait. Full disclosure, we had a freelancer basically assign this review before E3, and the week the assignment was due, this person bailed out. It was very unfortunate, also very messed up, honestly, because someone else had to pick up the pieces and try and get that thing done and out the door. So that's why you had to wait.
Yeah, and if you want to break into the games industry, don't do that.
Yeah, please don't do that. Yeah, this was really unfortunate, and yeah, as a result, we'll probably will not be working with this person again. And it sometimes happens. I mean, you've been here long enough. You've seen this before.
Look, there are all sorts of reasons for why somebody can't get an assignment done, and they're good reasons too.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But I don't know if this was a good one.
It was not a good reason, in my opinion, but I'm not going to
right.
do that on here.
Drama.
So instead, I can tell you that I'm salty. Tokyo Mirage Sessions, what I can tell you is I've played the first hour, and I have come around on the game itself. Big surprise, the Otero flop has happened.
Called it.
Yeah, you did not call Jack.
I totally called it.
So you didn't like it at first?
I was concerned because I didn't have a great picture of what it was. If you remember, leading into the Nintendo Directs that showed it, and even E3 last year, it was this game that featured a lot of, in my opinion, mediocre J-pop. And then as the pictures become clearer, Nintendo has done a better job, first of all, of showing what the combat and game is through trailers. But then sitting down to play it, I'm going to say up front, like, I'm not into the idol Japanese recording industry diva subculture thing that is part of this game. I respect folks who like that. I like the battle segments themselves. I think the sessions are brilliant. I hear that they expand on that idea throughout the game in ways that interest me. I know in the first hour, I think they do a good job of getting me started. Like every Persona / Shin Megami Tensei, it takes a little bit to get started.
Right. So in a tweet, what is this game? Because I still don't really know.
in a tweet, it's a JRPG focused on life in Japan that has Fire Emblem and Shin Megami Tensei elements.
Got it. Okay.
On the cover, it looks more Persona than I think SMT ever has. It's extremely
you just
colorful.
did a better job of explaining that game to me than anyone has in the months of me knowing about this game.
Because all the trailers only focused on like the
Japanese
early ones,
side.
on the Japanese songs and the music and everything, and so it looked more like a dance game.
Right, that's exactly what I thought it was.
Yeah.
But when you play the game, you're exploring, you're battling, you've got characters interacting.
Yeah, they do some
talking.
clever things with the touchscreen, which I like on the gamepad. You basically, your character will get text messages, and they will unfold only on the gamepad, and you'll tap to kind of see what the next response is. And I like that feature just because they're optional. You don't have to go through it. It doesn't take up space on the screen. It's something that you can do while doing something else. In terms of the first hour, it takes a little bit to get going, but basically a sort of idle competition goes awry, and some monsters come out and start possessing people, and folks start disappearing. It's very mysterious. But then they teach you the intricacies of the battle system, which Andrew Goldfarb did a good job of explaining when he previewed it, I want to say a month ago. So the way battles play out are sessions, and basically the way enemies sort of react to weaknesses, you can also build up these combination attacks called sessions. So let's say, for example, I have a physical-based attack that you, over time, because I leveled you as a character, your character has an immediate response to that attack. So it's like a chain. So if I attack towards an enemy that is weak towards this physical attack, because I did that, your character will auto attack on the next turn and immediately hit that guy as well. So we basically got double the damage for planning. That affects elemental attacks, that affects physical attacks, and it's a really clever way of you kind of planning out how a battle will play, because Shin Megami Tensei is also, at least in my experience, that game is ruthless. Like, there are weakness attacks that will obliterate an enemy, and vice versa. If your character is weak towards lightning, the enemy will come at you with like lightning attacks and just rip you.
Now, this is a Wii U exclusive game, right?
It is,
and it does some like pretty interesting stuff with the touchscreen. Or with the second screen?
Yeah, like I said, the text message stuff was at least the first hour what I liked the most about it. I mean, otherwise it's sort of your map. I love just the aesthetic and the art. I think the art, they actually did a fantastic job. I really like, for example, when you bring up the menu screen, every member so they show sort of a field, and they show the main character. He's like laying down on the grass looking up at the camera. It's a little creepy, but he's looking sort of at you through the TV. As you get more party members, more people are laying on the grass with them, just like, like posing. And so this whole area just fills up over the course of the game, and it's a neat way to show off progression of your party as they're growing and as people are changing. Talking to Andrew, it doesn't have the social link stuff that Persona has, but that's a very Persona idea.
Right.
Sort of maintaining a social calendar, who you hang out with affects certain stat attributes and things like that. But I got through the first boss. I thought it was very cool. I had a party of like 3 or 4 characters. And I was just ready for the next step. Again, my only reservation and the thing that holds me back is just I'm just not. I love Japanese culture and I love Japanese games.
Yeah.
But the idle stuff just doesn't really do much for me.
Well, it sounds like you're really into a lot of the systems, but the aesthetic is just something that.
Yeah, it's contemporary and it's fun and it has a lot of fun with those ideas, and I would not besmirch it for that.
It's pretty funny. I was, we were talking about the TV show Westworld earlier, which is coming to HBO later this year, and like there are definitely these genres, and like the Dark Tower too, right? Like they're making the Dark Tower movies, and the studios are really worried about the Western theme in entertainment right now because it turns people off, right? So they're pushing the sci-fi angle for those shows more, and they're doing contemporary. They're starting the Dark Tower in the middle of the story, so you see New York. And like I think it's really interesting because this game could have benefited from a little bit of a different promotion, because I think once people play it, they'll like it, even if they're not into like pop, into Japanese
Diva
pop culture, J-pop, and the
idols,
idols and stuff, because there's a strong game there.
And
and that's I was worried that that's how it would be.
Yeah, and it's a theme through the whole thing. Like there is a character in the party who that is her dream to become a diva. She has a sister who is an idol. She has a sister who was one. It starts off with a competition where they're trying to discover the next idol, the next talent. And again, it's delivered in a cute enough way, but just not in a way that at least I myself have been drawn to.
I feel like I pass on like 100 things a year because of that aesthetic that might have something interesting or a really good system underneath it all. But I just see that aesthetic, and I'm immediately reminded of the avatars of most of the people that say mean things to me on Twitter. And I'm like, well,
the eggs, the eggs that come calling.
No, the eggs usually get their first picture, and it's an anime character.
Oh, come on!
So
don't hold it against.
Next, I know I'm not. So next week we'll have a much deeper conversation about that as I put more time in, and we'll have folks from the office who also put in more time on it. Next on the list is Lego Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Yeah,
so Marty loved it.
Yeah, he gave
9
it
out of 10.
9 out of 10. Amazing, as we said in the brainstorm session for the subhead.
We had a very punny, very corny.
Canada.
Yeah.
Oh my God. How old are you people?
It's bad.
Jesus.
I told him to give it a 10 so we could say Kylo 10.
No, the other 10 was a masterpiece. It was like, no. Yeah, it was every bad no, but we ended up with I like that Wookiee, which I thought was really cute.
Yeah.
I just wish they would have used more Chewbacca at that point.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm playing it myself right now. You're playing it as well.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I mean, so I've always been a big fan of the Lego games, and this one is in many ways a return to form, and also some of the best evolution of this franchise yet. They added a lot of weird new stuff that like totally works. It's kind of like they added a cover system, sort of like Gears of War, but it's like kind of like
for babies.
Yeah, it's like my first cover system, but it works. It's fun. It shakes it up from just like running around smashing things.
So you can do the real hall fights like in the Star Wars movies, right? Where you wait and shoot.
Yeah, they added this sort of like Star Fox-esque dogfighting that in many ways is much simpler than Star Fox, and in many other ways kind of functions better than Star Fox just because it's simple. It's very straightforward. The graphics are gorgeous. It does this great mix between sort of taking the toys and mixing them in with pre-rendered backgrounds that like look like real. And it does some very interesting things. Like it starts on the Battle of Endor. So it immediately connects you to the original trilogy characters, and throughout the game you can unlock these Han Solo and Carbonite icons that unlock original trilogy characters. That's basically how you're freeing all the old cast. There's like something like 200 characters in the game. If you're into Lego and you like Star Wars, those things Microfighters, who are like those little kits, they're like $10 each. They're all unlockable in the game.
Oh, that's awesome.
So in terms of like finding collectibles and unlockables, super fun, really awesome. Multiplayer is really good. It still does that weird sort of like dynamic split screen thing that's like a diagonal.
Keep
like,
up.
You can, if it's like Lego Dimensions, you can actually customize that. You can,
interesting.
You can lock it in if you want.
That's cool. Yeah, I want to check that out.
If that's
Check the
there.
settings.
And it does a really good job of mixing the movie dialogue with the pantomiming and with brand new dialogue that they got the entire cast to record. I was a little turned off by hearing like movie dialogue in those games because it doesn't fit like the idea of this cartoon character pulling out a banana instead of a gun and saying something menacing.
And that happens, by the way. It's hilarious. You'll see like stormtroopers on the way down. They take out a banana.
Their running gag is the banana.
Very early on, you blow up the Death Star at the end of Return of the Jedi, and you see this bathtub shootout with two stormtroopers who are bathing each other, and their helmets blow off, and a rubber ducky floats into space. And
There's
then
a
Luke
lot of
Skywalker tries to grab it
too, by the way.
Yeah,
that's a few.
It's just one of their weird things. It's goofy, it's fun, it's beautiful. It's like one of the more robust games on third-party games on the Wii U right now.
I was ignoring it.
No, don't.
I was trying to not play it.
You need to. Yeah, no, I don't even like Lego games. I have to say, like, I've tried Lego games. I've tried to like Lego games before and have not liked them.
Yeah.
I even tried one of the last ones, which was the Marvel one.
Yeah.
I was just very turned off by it. I was like, I'm not enjoying
And you're
this.
a big Marvel fan, right? For the most part?
Yes and no. I mean, I'm not. I can't confess and be like I have.
That's the thing.
I love the comics or anything.
I was saying this on Beyond. Like, I'm a big fan. I like Marvel, but I'm not like crazy into it. I like DC. I like Batman, but like once you get into like the 7th, 8th, 10th string characters on those shows and lore, I don't really care. Like I 100%ed Lego Jurassic World, but like I don't care about any of the characters you unlock in that game. But in this game, like in the 4th mission, they gave me the option to ride on the Lugabeast, which is that big robot elephant looking thing.
Yeah, the one that almost took away BB-8.
Yeah.
Or the Happy-Boar, which is that big fat boar that is drinking that Finn drinks out. The fart boar.
Yeah.
And
the fart boar.
he actually doesn't fart in the movie. If that was a prequel, he would have.
Yeah.
J.J. Abrams just shows his butt and he doesn't
just
fart.
goes,
What a weird sentence.
Yeah.
But they give you the option of riding on both of those things, and I'm like, as a big Star Wars nerd, I'm like, this is so cool. Like, I'm getting to play this movie that I really love. It's got a bunch of original trilogy stuff. It's got all these little minifigs I'm unlocking based on characters that I enjoy.
So one thing you haven't mentioned that I think hooked me the most is this multi-build idea.
Yeah.
So prior Lego games, puzzle solving became break something and then you rebuild this one puzzle element you need to solve the puzzle. And to me, that was never that interesting. It's a great kid-friendly idea, and I think it just keeps those games simple and family-friendly, so you don't have to be a huge gamer. But I was always turned off by them because I'm just like, this felt so simple. So there's this idea that when you break a pile of bricks, you have multiple things you can make, and in some cases, in order to solve the puzzle, you have to build a specific thing first. So there is some discovery of, oh wait, I need this first. Let me break it again. Set that up there. Or let me put this over here. You can also build different weapons that you can decide to end up using. I love that, and you mentioned this part. I love that it starts at the end of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Because that was the curveball I did not expect. And Marty pointed something out to me that probably makes sense as the best reason why to do that. Is because you don't get a lightsaber. You don't see a lightsaber in The Force Awakens until nearly halfway through that movie.
Yeah.
Whereas you can start with here's Darth Vader versus Luke Skywalker versus Palpatine.
Yeah.
By the way, Lego Palpatine, totes adorbs. Whatever that means.
Great. He's great. No, but
great.
even the scene right before that, because
Mm-hmm.
it lets you play the second half of Return of the Jedi. So everything from the Battle of Endor on to the Millennium Falcon going through space, and the big battle between father and son and the Holy Spirit, or whatever you want to call Palpatine in that scenario. And there's this really charming scene where you play as Wicket, and he has to wake up 3 Ewoks, and all 4 of you go to the top of this hill and push this thing, and you just see 4 fat-butted little Ewoks with their little minifigs, and they're just like wiggling and pushing this block down, and I'm like, this is so great. It's just such a charming, wonderful, fun game, and I'm so happy that Lego Star Wars is back.
Do it. You need to.
Just
Just give yourself to the Lego gods. What?
In traditional fashion, I always play this game on a console, and I also play the handheld version because these are always slightly different. Yeah. And so I started the 3DS version this morning. Obviously a visual downgrade from the console stuff, but it still looks really good. And I think that the Lego games specifically on 3DS are some of the better looking games because it plays into that inherent blockiness and that and anti-aliasing that kind of happens.
How is that? So you're feeling it?
It works. It's it's smaller scale. The levels are redesigned, and the good thing about it is that you're not dealing with season passes or GameStop exclusive character packs.
What about my gold Legos?
Yeah,
get my gold Lego?
All that junk. You don't have to worry about any of that. The game's $29.99, which is cheaper than most 3DS games. So check that out. It's cool.
I'm just a sucker too for any video game that has a Millennium Falcon in it. I have to play that stage. And I got up to that point last night.
This is the first video game with a playable BB-8. How cool is that?
Yeah, no, that is really rad, and it was worth the wait. I feel like maybe trying to rush this game for the movie launch would have. I tried Disney Infinity, not to to speak ill of. I mean, R.I.P. because that franchise has been retired. But I felt like the stuff that they launched on day one for the film didn't satisfy me to the level that this is, and I think. Honestly, what I want to guess is part of the reason is that they had time. They said, you have until late June to deliver this. Let's make sure it's a good one, and it ended up being one.
I find in general, right, generally targeting the streaming or Blu-ray, whatever release for movies seems like a better approach from the get-go.
Yeah.
That extra time. If the movie's a hit, people will come out for the game then still.
Yeah. Well,
in the past we got so many movie licensed games, and they were released.
Remember the Phantom Menace PS1 game, PS1 game? It was awful. It was so bad.
One of the greatest. First of all, if you want to play a Star Wars video game that was rushed to meet The Force Awakens in theaters, Star Wars Battlefront exists, and as you can see, that turned out kind of thin for a lot of people. But also, GoldenEye is one of the greatest movie-based video games of all time, and it came out 2 years after the VHS release. 2 years. I didn't even know that was a movie when that game came out. I was like, what was that?
I never thought we'd talk about VHS on this show. For kids at home, VHS, Google it. You will be shocked.
What does it stand for?
I don't even know.
VHS? Video
we don't even know. We don't even know.
What the heck does VHS? Good question. Wow.
I don't know either.
Vehicular system.
Video hi-fi system or something.
Really?
Yeah, something
It's
like
been
that.
so
Well,
long.
we have phones. You guys can
Anyway,
check this
movies used to
information.
come on large rectangular
Cassettes.
blocks,
Yeah, like bigger cassettes than what your parents used to put in their radios. But
and
let's
you had to
move forward.
rewind them.
Yep. All right, so let's just to wrap up games we've played or have been playing. Oh wait,
Video home system.
I knew it.
That was
it.
good.
All right.
Nice
Okay,
work.
so that was my guess.
Keep going.
Mighty Number 9.
Yeah.
Notice it all came down again. I was excited for a second. Mighty Number 9 came out, and unfortunately, it is not the reimagining or rebirth of Mega Man we were hoping for. This has been a real sad story for me because I was at the PAX where this was announced. I was one of the people in like the first row on the right. I think Mitch was with us.
That means nobody else could see anything.
Yeah, that's right. Everyone
When you were
behind
in
me
the
was like,
front row.
I hate you. But yeah, to have been at that event and to have been so excited and then to see the final product, which at the end of the day has cool ideas. I think the boosting thing that they're going for, the speedrunners sort of take on Mega Man, where you have to chain these attacks and absorb these abilities quickly, is a smart one. But trying to make this game across 10 platforms definitely looks like it was a mistake for them.
It didn't work for them.
Yeah.
No,
Definitely
and I think
was
that
a
like
mistake.
even just inherently from a design perspective, this game, it just has some issues. Not even in the degradation of art that we saw happen from like the original concept pitch to the first screenshots to what we
or
actually
even the
have
first
now.
demo they had. The first like tech demo of it was
But
much better looking than what came out.
It's also just like it's kind of a hollow, vapid, empty, kind of soulless feeling game, and it's at the same time incredibly chatty, talkative the entire
Interesting.
time.
No, I feel like the soul's there. I just feel like it doesn't come out enough. Like it just kind of peaks out because the graphics, I mean, no offense to the folks who worked on this game, but this does look like this was my first game made in Unreal.
Yeah.
What is this, 3 or 4? Like, who knows? My first Unreal game is how the art looks to me. And that's sad. Like, hardly anything has shadows. And the presentation is going for that nostalgia play. So, like, no one's mouth moves when they talk. But you know what? Compare this to Shovel Knight, which was absolutely going for nostalgia, but playing on the memory of what you remember an 8-bit
Shovel
game
Knight,
was,
which-
and not the reality.
Shovel Knight, which was also capable of targeting 10 different platforms. We've seen multiple DLCs from
But
them.
it took, but they were smart enough to
while.
hone it in on one to start, right? They let off with Wii U, and then they slowly pushed out from there.
Yeah.
But it's also infinitely more portable, right? Like if Mighty Number 9 had targeted that retro appeal and that kind of classic 8-bit Mega Man look, it would have been a game that would have been easy to develop across all these platforms.
And you know what?
we have a really choppy Wii U version to boot with
and
this
it would have
game,
looked
right?
it would have looked prettier.
Yeah.
I think had they gone with sprite based pixel art, it would have looked prettier.
Yeah.
What we have now is basically if an iOS developer made a Mega Man knockoff. That's what this game looks like.
Which is, you know, I had high hopes for Kickstarter and Indiegogo for these platforms kind of being the avenue
Revivals.
to bring back these classic franchises that just weren't viable anymore, right? Like Castlevania is the other one. It's like it's so mind-boggling that we didn't get more games like the classic DS Castlevania games, right? Like, and I'm saying classic. Obviously, the classic ones were even more classic. But like that, it felt like that series had so much more to tell and to do. And so now we're getting a reboot. What is it called? Is it
Bloodstained?
Bloodstained,
No,
yeah.
it was Bloodstained. But I do want to point out the DS era saw plenty of Castlevanias.
Yeah,
Like, there
no,
was,
but
there
that's
was
what I'm
DS,
saying.
there was
Like-
Portrait of Ruin, there was Order of Ecclesia. Like they had a ton of flavors of it, but I think they started to see that it just wasn't bringing in like bigger sales, I would imagine, which is why that eventually stopped.
Well, I think all of those games were profitable because they did not cost that much to develop and sold decently. But I
You
think
would
that
say,
wasn't
yeah.
enough, right? Like as a game company, you have overhead expenses and you want to focus on the big hits. And,
do.
And so that should have been there should have been an investment in a bigger hit, not at the expense of something that is working and that is beloved, right?
Yeah.
And like that's what I'm saying. Like the DS era had all these stories, and it felt like there was more to tell, and it went away.
Well, I think the biggest realization that came out of this, which was actually kind of harrowing, is that like KJ Inafune is a businessman. I don't think he's really this, like, at least nowadays, he's not this esteemed game designer that people thought he was. There was even that quote from him a few years ago being like, I didn't invent Mega Man. I am not the creator of Mega Man.
I think that's him being humble, though. I would not interpret that as more of the businessman side of him. Like, I think to him, and think about how many delays this game had for a second, right? I think to that team, they want that this thing to be the best thing they can make it. But I think from the outset, they needed to maybe rein that in. That's the story to me as an outsider, not someone who has like intimate knowledge on what happened. I think stretching the resources as thin as they did, involving port teams and opening up all these different platforms they wanted to put this thing on from the outset was a mistake.
Probably.
Then for him, I feel like, I think there is a level of quality he does want to deliver to his fans, but I think that ultimately this product doesn't reflect that.
Well, I do not respect his quote that he had on this game 2 weeks ago that was, this is better than nothing.
Okay, so
that is unacceptable.
So I got news for you though. So that was partially a misinterpretation. That was a mistranslation by the interpreter who was handling that, because we have friends in Japan and these folks are on Twitter, and I even retweeted some of these. People listening to what Inafune said in response to the question in Japanese said he did not say that. He sort of humbly said this was the game I unfortunately we ended up on. I don't think he used the word unfortunately, but it was still a much more humbler version of that versus it's better than nothing. That unfortunately became the story because that's what was interpreted.
But also, I mean, like you talked about Inafune, but it's also about the team, right? Like we talked at length about how much we love Metroid Prime, and Metroid Prime, that team was comprised of people who worked, at id, at Iguana, at all these different companies, and they all came together and they made something really special. And I don't know if you can, even with the lead designer of Metroid Prime, recreate that unless you have that kind of like the special touch from the art director and the level designer and the musician and like everybody who came together. And I feel like Mighty Number 9 is a little bit off that too.
Well,
that is not the Mega Man team.
That's why I have hopes for Ukulele, because I feel like
but it's a very different.
Yeah, they did.
Like every single person in a team can matter.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think it's got to be that X-Men, Avengers, A-Team, like bringing, like going over here and getting this guy, getting this girl, getting everyone together. And I feel like Ukulele is getting that a little bit better. They got the right musicians for it. They got the right programmers, the right artists. Again, we could get burned, but I have a slightly higher hopes for that one.
And Bloodstained looked really good.
Yes.
By the way.
It was at E3, looked fantastic.
The point I was trying to make is like I hope this is not discouraging people from trying to resurrect classic franchises. Shenmue, the word is out. Probably in 10 years we'll be saying, hey, excited Shenmue is coming back. But like, I love that we're seeing these kind of reboots, revitalizations, whatever you want to call them.
I think what bums me out is that we still just don't have like a Mega Man 11, or like where's like the Capcom dropped the ball on Mega Man, and now Mighty Number 9 is not going to pick that up in the way we thought it would. So as consumers, we're just kind of left being like, well, I guess I'll just go play the old Mega Man games.
But it may come back, right? And like Capcom went through some rough times, like Konami did too. You don't know what's going to happen with those companies.
Well, and look at like the Legacy Collection, which is considered one of the best series revivals for Mega Man. And granted, you can get Mega Man games on almost every platform under the sun these days because they've been pretty. Capcom has not had much reservation about putting it on your 360 or on your PS3 or on even those games were ported to PlayStation 1, I believe, in Japan. But this is also a weird case of, and we should end on this just to move on to the next game and then move on to more post E3 stuff because we do want to get to that. I will say that this entire situation is sad to me, specifically with Capcom and Mega Man, because it almost runs into the same rut of Konami and Kojima, quite frankly, where a key person left the company or departed, and we want nothing to do with their project or this thing that they were working on. Now, frankly, in Konami's case, we don't know if that's entirely the case. It seems like because Metal Gear Solid 5 did so well, they would be foolish to not try to continue to make Metal Gear games.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Whereas when Keiji Inafune left Capcom, Mega Man was in a much weirder place. There were projects in the pipeline, but they killed them all. And they did. Mega Man Universe, Mega Man Legends 3, both killed off.
And we have seen this before, right? Like, let's not forget that the Fallout we got now, is a different Fallout from the original games, right? Like, a lot of franchises can come back, and there was this period of time where we did not see a Metroid game. Well, that period is now. But no, there was before, like after Mr. Yokoi's tragic death, there was this franchise was not something that had a champion at Nintendo, right? Like, even though many of the developers were still there, and so it happens. And those franchises, it just takes the right team and the right spirit, and it'll come back.
Yacht
in full
Club
force.
Games. 2018. Fingers crossed.
Believe. If you're listening, Sean, we are nominating you as the one. All right, let's move on. Rhythm Heaven Megamix is out. It was released during E3. It was, in fact, on the Wednesday of that week. To complete surprise of all of us included, we did not know this was coming out. But if you don't know, this was Rhythm Heaven. What was the Japanese name for it? We've talked about it on this program. And this was quite possibly my favorite 3DS game from Japan last year. I had a great time with it. You and I recorded some Let's Plays. We did. Talk about that.
We recorded Let's Plays last year in the Japanese version, and then this year on the US version, which uses single cart multiplayer download, which is incredible because I feel like it's been a while since that's really been a thing. They used to do that all the time on the DS and all the time on the GBA, and it's just like local multiplayer on 3DS is kind of quieted down a little bit.
Triforce Heroes was the last one, and it was again that upsell of like, hey, you don't know about this game, but here you go.
Yeah, and even then, I don't think you had to be like one of those like weird Skull Kid things, right?
You were a Link. You got to keep your materials. You just weren't allowed to make more than like 2 outfits, but still, you got to play the game.
Yeah. So either way, this is multiplayer on single cart here is kind of a slimmed down version of the full game, but I'd been playing it for a little while on my own, and Jose had been playing it a lot, and it's just so damn fun. Like the way this game comes together, and the sort of like the secret kind of coercion you can do of being like, I'm either going to help this guy or I'm going to hurt this guy. Jose and I were playing next to each other, and I kept trying my best to screw him up, singing along, counting arrhythmically while he was.
I heard the potato song.
2, 1.
Oh, shave that onion face.
Onion and potatoes.
It's just,
oh my god!
And I feel like
that was a multiplayer where we were both playing together, and the judgment was in real time on both sides.
Totally, and I was screwing up left and right. And I mean, like in the interest of transparency, I haven't really played a lot of these games. For some reason, I always kind of missed them.
Really,
but I've played every single WarioWare game top to bottom, and it's been a while since we had one of those. You know, it was the Wii U launch was the last time we had one of these, and this totally scratches that itch of just that weird, quirky, I have no idea what's going to happen next, but I'm in good hands kind of feeling that the WarioWare games give you, coupled with the rhythm aspect, which, as like, I'm a musician, I put out albums, I know how to follow a metronome. It does not work when I go to play this game and someone is throwing bananas and oranges and pineapples on the
I'm a pro. You see me over there, and I'm just like, yep, this one, that one, this one, that one, this one, that one.
To me, it's kind of like when you watch like guitarists play Guitar Hero, and they're like, I don't get it, and like people are in the room like being like, oh, dude, I can play your song better than you. I was sitting there with Jose.
Rhythm Heaven is my Rain Man game. Like, that's the one that I can do.
He's really good at it.
I hear what you're saying. That I just find this game is so charming. Like every time you unlock a new challenge, it's really fast to get through them, right? Like you get a new challenge, you have to smile with each one of them. Like even if it's like something as simple as like filling the robots up, and it's just like it's so playful and so fun, and like they make the rhythm like just very special, and then has these little touches. You guys play the one where the dog and the cat play tennis, basically, like badminton. They're flying in airplanes. They play badminton, and on the very last beat, the dog flies off into the distance and catches the thing. Right? Like it's like they didn't have to do that, but it's just so clever and charming. And then nothing beats the expressions on the faces of the little guys who are singing the Like when you mess up, they look at you all like,
dude, it's the judgment train. I love it. Like there's also a song called Frog Hop, and it's one of my favorites because all the backup dancers who are with you are just like, this guy needs to get it together. Like they all have an expression, and it's very clear and it's very charming. It is the pressure of the spring musical, but you have the comfort of a 3DS in your hands. You're not actually making these mistakes in front of people. Whereas take Guitar Hero Live, the last one that came out, when you messed up during a performance, it was more, you suck. And it was just this very like harsh way to kind of tell you that. Whereas
the real
instead, you got the kids who are up there just like, I don't know about number 4, but he better get this thing together because we look silly right now.
And it's like, it's a testament to the charm and the wonder of this team that's working on these games, because I feel like if this game was released like in America by just an American team, I think you would get a mini game collection where it's like 2 planes are flying by, maybe they're trying to shoot each other or something like that. Or like there'd be the basketball mini game where you're throwing actual basketballs. But in this game, it's like the ground comes alive. It's got a face. You tap it, and it shoots fruit in different directions into basketball nets. And it's like, well, why? Because why not? Video games are stupid, and they should be fun. And this is great. I love it.
It reminds me of like Sega's heydays.
Yeah.
You know, like when Sega just had weird characters.
Arcade machine,
like,
and arcade games especially showed that culture.
Yeah.
I will say the last thing we should end on is the mini boss challenges that pop up every couple of tiers through your Rhythm Heaven campaign, and we played the coin toss one, which almost killed me because you counted off beat, and I was just, or you had like a like something like
you
that.
were counting. You were like 1, 2, 3, and I was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
And I caught it a few times, but it was so much fun.
Because if you go like 3/4 time signature or 4/4, so it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2. One, and I just kept throwing him off, and he was like, "Stop it!" and still nailing it. So
for the most part, I had to reach into the Jedi tricks.
Yeah,
so good.
What's killing me inside though is we've run some videos on IGN for this game, and a lot of people on our site don't seem to care. So if you're listening to this, like, head over to our YouTube channel. We have both Let's Plays there. Just check it out if you're even curious. This is just our pitch to you that Rhythm Heaven is the goods. Like, it's really, really good. Think of this as a greatest hits album, because that's what it is for the Rhythm Heaven series to me.
Is there a demo for this game?
There is a demo on the eShop as well.
You should definitely check it out.
Yeah, it's worth your time.
Yeah.
Trust us.
I think you got to get your hands on this thing, because this is, like I said, for years I ignored this franchise. Jose like literally grabbed me and pulled me in a room one day and was just like, "Play this. Please don't look at your phone. Don't look at your calendar. Play this game.
Sumo slap.
Do some sumo slaps."
Oh, yeah,
and
I got you to play that one.
I was sold within 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You know.
All right, so let's move on. This is a quick lightning round. Then we're going to take a quick break, and then we come back with post E3 thoughts on Zelda, etc. Monster Hunter Generations, I'm playing that. Very cool. 4 different hunting styles. I'm mostly leaning towards this one that has the most sort of action slots attached to it. So these hunting styles change the way that you play.
I don't know what that means.
You'll live. So that you're able to either have ways to escape a giant monster that's trying to chase you down, or have ways to instantly evade, so you have the safety of quickly popping a potion. Or one of my favorites, because I'm using the charge axe right now, is the ability to add more charges to that weapon, so that I can smack monsters, lay the smackdown on monsters in a better way. We're going to go deeper on that game next week, but I am playing it. I am enjoying it for the most part. My only concern so far is that Monster Hunter 4 had focused a lot more on the elevation game, because that was the first game that you were like climbing and jumping off of things, and they made it very simple to kind of have this air combat idea. That this was the first game where they really started to lean into that. And this one feels surprisingly right on the ground. Like, there isn't a ton of opportunities to jump off of these ledges and like elbow drop a monster hunter or a monster from the top rope the way you could in Monster Hunter 4. So just throwing that out there. We'll go deeper next week, but I'm enjoying it for the most part. A few other notes for you. Minecraft Wii U is out at retail if you're interested. That game includes the Mario Mashup Pack. You should check that out. Super Mario RPG 7-Star Saga is coming to Wii U Virtual Console June 30th. So by the time you hear this, that's a classic. Square made it. Square Nintendo collaboration. Also the first RPG Mario ever had. Very special game to all of us. Some would say the best. That's also true. Sadly, it is only Wii U Virtual Console and not 3DS yet. I hope we will eventually reach a place where these come out at the same time, at least before our next shows up, which probably isn't going to happen.
They'll just look so much better on the small screen, you know, like they just kind of... They stay fresher when you're playing them on a handheld.
Have you tried playing a Super Nintendo game on 3DS in pixel perfect mode?
Yeah.
Like, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It looks so good.
It's funny, though. You see how square the display is. Like, were TVs really that square?
They were. And they had a huge butt on the back of them.
Isn't that funny?
Very big butts.
They had big butts with, like, an extra big butt.
I was looking at pictures from when I first started at this job 7 years ago. Yeah. And I remember playing, my first day here, I was playing Punch-Out for the Wii on a big TV with just this badunkadunk.
We're so used to flat now.
With the badunkadunk, you heard it here.
The booties are gone.
Yeah, they've gotten much thinner. So lastly, before we take a break, Nintendo 64 celebrated its 20th anniversary in Japan, and I was trying to get Peer to remember his first time even playing this system, and his eyes glazed over.
Well, you just brought it up out of the blue. First of all, that was when I was still in... You know what? I think I was in Germany during that time.
Okay.
So I spent 1 year, after I lived in Japan, I spent a year, I don't know, maybe that's not true. I spent a year in Germany I don't remember. I do remember the anniversary on September 29th, the launch of the IGN website, of course.
Yeah,
and
IGN
also the
and
launch of
the
the
64
N64 in the
happened
US.
same day.
But when it came out in Japan, I'm trying to remember, but I think I did not import it. At the time, I wanted the U.S. Machine and the game and play them the two games we got at launch.
How far apart were the Japanese and U.S. launches? Because I know I
several
bought
months.
5 months.
less. I mean, if it was September.
Yeah.
It was just
I very specifically remember buying the N64 in the fall of what 96, I guess. Yeah. And I don't know if I told the story before, but Mario 64 was running on a TV with a fat butt at Toys R Us, and I walked by it and refused to look at it because I didn't want to be spoiled.
Wow, well,
I was so excited for this thing.
Story.
Yeah, I had saved
spoilers in that game.
I didn't even want to see. Like, I saw the corner of my eye, somebody was throwing Bowser, and I'm like, you can do that. I can't look.
Bowser is in this game.
And I went all in on the N64. I bought both launch games.
Yeah.
I bought the N64. I bought 4 controllers, even though no launch game supported that. I saved up everything. I traded in everything I owned for that, which was the last time I ever.
Funko Land.
Yeah, I went to Funko Land with a big stack of some of the greatest Super Nintendo and Genesis games of all time.
How is that a retailer, Dave?
And I've never done that since, because what a stupid thing to do.
I remember reading a ton about the Japanese launch of the N64 and just people saying, wait till Mario comes out. And, I remember Next Generation magazine had this big feature, and I was like, I cannot wait for this thing.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break. Good. Hopefully, Peer will remember more by next episode. And if not, we'll try and plan something special by the time the 20th anniversary comes around, because IGN and the N64 have the same birthday. So hopefully, our awesome GM will remember something amazing. So we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, post E3 thoughts on Nintendo and Zelda. We'll be back.
Listen.
Welcome back. Jose Otero here with Brian Altano and Peer Schneider.
Hey.
And quick plug for you. There's an awesome thing that you can buy that's related to IGN in some ways. And
we're trying something new. We partnered with Nerdblock. They're basically, they're a company in Canada that creates like special collectibles boxes like Loot Crate, only that it's not a subscription. You buy like one box and it's a mystery what's in it. So we partnered with them, and we looked through catalogs of everything that was available and like basically curated this box with them. It's like IGN branded. It's got autograph cards in it, so you can get a random one. Jose's card is in there, Brian's card is in there. Other hosts at IGN from Beyond, Unlocked, what have you, in their Game Scoop as well. And then, if you're a Nintendo fan, I know, I'm not going to give it away, but there are a couple of really cool Nintendo items in there too that you would like. There's a Deadpool t-shirt, some bobbleheads, IGN pin. So
were those the IGN pins from E3?
No, it's a different one. It's actually a lapel pin. We
really?
We don't even have one yet.
Why don't I have one of those?
It's a metal one. You got to buy a box. And you can get the box. Just go to nerdblock.com, nerdblock.com/IGN.
Yep.
And the box is right there. When they're sold out, they're gone. We're not making another one.
Nope.
So
get that. Get on that.
Go get the thing.
Get it. Support us and support Nerdblock. All right. Next up, we played Zelda at E3.
Oh my God.
We got to talk a little bit about it with Bill Trinan. If you haven't heard that episode, you should. Post E3, all I can tell you is that I spent all of my E3 recovery time looking up footage of Zelda.
So I had this real post E3 kind of depression because I wanted to play it. I kept on thinking about that game. It was ridiculous.
Which it's been a while, at least to me, since that has happened. Last year I didn't have that.
I did the most unthinkable thing that I thought I would never do again. I went to GameStop and I repurchased Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword.
Nice.
Because I'm going to replay every single Zelda game, as my thirst needs to be quenched for the new Zelda game. And I think I figured out exactly why I walked out of E3 depressed and missing this game. And it's because usually I go to E3 and I play a vertical slice of a game, which is something I saw the new God of War behind doors. I saw Watch Dogs 2.
That's a very, very enclosed demo
very controlled
level.
experience. Yeah. It's 15 minutes. You see everything. You walk out of it. You have a conversation with your friends about what they did and what you did. Most of you basically walk down the same hallway, experience the same exact beats. Zelda, every single one of us who walked out of there saw different things, played different things, interacted differently, had fought different characters, found different items. You found a fire rod. I was like, what? There's a fire rod? People were telling me about, like, I had made it in my demo. I made it to the ice area, and then the timer came up that said, thanks for playing. And I was like, bring me back in there. I
You
could
turned
not
and
stop.
yelled at the lady.
Yeah, I could not stop thinking about this game, and I was like, what will scratch my itch in the meantime? Is it more Zelda? Yeah, I can go back and play Twilight Princess, which I'm doing in HD, and I'll play Skyward Sword afterwards. We'll replay every Zelda game before next year.
And we'll be recording more High Roll Times as a result, right? Because we want to have basically a segment on the show where we kind of deep dive on these games. But we've been looking for something to replace this Zelda.
None of those are open world.
No.
It's like, and then open world games
Skyward
aren't.
comes close. Just
It does.
as long as you don't douse. Skyward and exploring does work, but don't douse.
But yeah, so the worst thing is just the reminders.
You gotta douse. They make you douse.
I can't believe I said
You
that.
gotta do it.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He's new. But the reminders, like they're just all these reminders of the game in real life.
We're here.
Yeah, you're gonna make it back. Like I drove last week. I drove to VidCon, right? And so I passed by Magic Mountain, and it like. If you remember the episode with Bill, like to me seeing all the stuff in the distance in Zelda was like driving past an amusement park and like you can't go there right now, and you're like, I want to go there someday. I wonder what it's like to sit on that terrifying looking thing, right?
Yeah.
And like, do you remember all the stuff in the background? Like you just look in the distance, and you see kind of like that Death Mountainish volcano.
Dude, there's a floating island.
There was some weird floating thing.
It's
then
either
there was some like a mountain with a piece missing in it.
And
And
a lot of
man.
so that mountain with a piece missing it, the Twin Peaks per se.
We saw the
that
climbing part.
You know, and they said that is very much a throwback to an original piece of the NES Zelda art, which showed Link on a horizon looking over, and there was that same shape.
Yep.
They went for that for a specific reason they don't want to talk about. A lot of it seems to hint at some sort of a timeline convergence, because you have something like the Temple of Time, and Link has been asleep for 100 years, but at the same time you have Koroks, and you have like the shrine to the goddess sitting inside the Temple of Time. That wasn't there before.
Plus the old man who's very evocative of the first Zelda, or possibly the art style in Wind Waker. Maybe he's the
from
king.
there. There's also rock salt you can find, which has people wondering, is this the remains of like the sea
ocean?
has basically the ocean lowered and we're back. Although that would be weird to me, because Wind Waker ended on a positive note. So you have to tell me, how did this calamity happen that then kind of obliterated everything? Because for the most part, Great Plateau, you don't find much. You don't find many people or many things.
Where does Phantom Hourglass take place? On
That's the other weird thing.
On the plate of spaghetti that is the Zelda timeline.
I think it'll break your brain if you try to put it together.
No, you can't.
But I do feel like there will be consistency with a game. Like it's just the setup is just so different. It's no longer, hey, this boy grows up in this village and they find out that he may have this like special power through reincarnation, blah blah blah. This game starts with dude gets resurrected in this weird chamber, you know, like
which means bad things may have happened.
Yeah, something happened, and like remember, Ganon gets sealed and somebody releases him. Who released Link? Like, what's going on here?
don't know.
Why was he asleep?
Well, and you hear the female voice, which you
whatever.
assume is Zelda, right?
Yeah.
Link.
We don't know.
I think
Open your
what's
eyes.
the most
That's what she
intriguing
sounds
about
like.
Open your eyes.
Open your eyes.
Sorry.
What's most intriguing about this game is how familiar so much of it feels in a sort of classic Legend of Zelda feeling, like from the art style to just being Link again, but also how completely new and different it is. Like actually controlling it is, for the first time in Zelda history, took me a minute to really understand.
Did you throw your sword?
I was
right?
throwing
like
my
we all
sword.
do.
I was jumping the wrong way. I was like, just climbing things incorrectly. Like just moving around.
All the buttons changed.
Everything's changed.
Yeah, that's
jumping was one part of it too. No,
if you're watching videos, like it took me about a minute and a half to get into it. But it's like even accomplished players will do the wrong things. Like you're like, I know how to lock on, but like suddenly you're throwing your sword, or you don't realize that doing the backflip and doing like the sword, like lurching forward with a sword, is now using a jump button.
Yeah.
And it takes just a little time, and then it feels very liberating. Feels really cool.
Yeah. So I don't want to. I want Brian to finish his thought on anything, because I know he has somewhere he has to go.
Yeah, I'm hopping over to Game Scoop next. This is like when people jump from show to show.
You've been scooped from us.
So I cannot stop thinking about this game, and I think it's because of how interesting and new the combat felt. Traversal is its own thing, and we'll get there when we get there, because I don't. They showed us 1% of this game at E3, which is so exciting and terrifying, and
it's awesome.
But combat is something that I found so new and so interesting because you're never married to your item anymore. Like, it wasn't like I got my sword lasts forever, I'm good. I was using clubs and spears and things that would break, and then I would be in a combat scenario where I'm like, I don't know how to take this guy down, and I'd find an acorn and all of a sudden start slingshotting and stuff like that.
And did you realize what's really different about this game? I just kind of felt like, feeling wise, like you walk out of kind of the woods into a clearing, and you see a bunch of guys hanging out around a campfire, right?
Yeah.
Like bokoblins, and there's like wildlife running around, and they may even chase it. You didn't have that in a Zelda game before.
No.
Like, usually you were inside a building, and there are artificial rooms that intersect, and you can see the monsters walking around, or the bats flying around, or they're usually hanging from a ceiling. But it was much more. It didn't feel like you were coming upon a living world the same way, right? Like, and even in a lot of games, the enemies would fade in. Like, think of Majora's Mask, where you can roll around as the Goron in the landscape.
Yeah.
Like, the enemies would fade in last minute. But here, you can see stuff far away, and like, oh, I'm gonna snipe this guy, or I'm gonna sneak up, or I'm gonna throw a bomb. Like, it really feels much more deliberate.
I've been describing this game as a much more populated Shadow of the Colossus rather than what people are seeing it as, which is a much emptier Skyrim. I don't think that's fair to call this, to put this on the same page as Skyrim. It's not what they're going for. They are
It's also way more polished. I mean, if you want to play that game,
for
right?
sure.
Like, let's not even.
For sure.
And we
And
played
it's-
1% of it.
Well, it's also like Skyrim. It's got that kind of like 90s PC jank that people really love, of just like, I can pick up everything. Here's
And
my
that's
weight.
not bad.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not bad, but like, it's not what I'm looking for in a game like this.
I picked up a spoon.
And we talked to Bill. We talked to Bill Trinan about this. Yeah, that annoyed me.
I do that in The Witcher too. I'm like, I picked up the plates.
Like, why am I here?
Yeah,
Why am I doing?
when you
And then you
accidentally
have to
look
go
that
through
stuff.
menus.
We
Go ahead,
talked to
Brian.
Bill about this, and I said, like, are you guys like kind of is the team inherent, just intrinsically going for a more desolate, lonely feel? And the answer is yes, they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that means that when stuff does happen, it has so much more significance. Like this, don't think about it like when you play GTA and you get in a car and there's 1,000 people on the road. Think about it as you are alone in this field, and that desolation and that loneliness.
Well, it's way more poetic.
Yeah,
Just like
it
in
is.
Shadow of the Colossus. There is something that it inherently suggests of the world and the space that you're occupying.
Yeah.
There's a history to everything that you
Yeah.
almost feel someone is on the verge of telling you about, but they don't really ever get to.
And that doesn't mean it's going to be empty or vapid or boring. I think a lot of people are like, well, there's nothing to do. And
My
no,
favorite
there's
are
tons
some
of
folks
stuff
who
to
are
do.
overemphasizing, well, why couldn't I invert the y-axis? Nintendo really needs to learn that the demo experience should have options. They did this to us with Splatoon. They've done this to us with other games.
Yeah.
I feel it was a fault on their part to not have that in the build. But folks even complaining about that, to me, was just like, when was the last time you played a Nintendo game? I was like, because they do include those options.
Sure.
Yes, Nintendo gets bagged on for like not having communication support, or for having sort of a weird approach to some of the things they do. But there are also some things like inverting the y-axis that just make sense and will be in the final game.
Yeah.
So chillax.
Yeah, no, I want to make sure that, like, I felt the demo wasn't perfect technically, right? Like, when I played
there was
that
some
demo,
frame rate
I was
stuff.
thinking, thank goodness this is getting a couple more months in the can.
Yeah.
Because there were frame rate issues. It did look sometimes like, by the way, I saw it on 2 different displays. On one, it looked pretty nice. On one, it looked
Some
much
were
more
calibrated
pixelated.
for
like
the
some
either.
LCDs were just horrendously set up.
okay. Thank you so much
You
for
saw
saying
that too? It was really pixely looking.
Well, I didn't get that at all because I was I played it on two separate demos, and the when I first came out of it, I felt really bad because I walked up to Jose and like and I told this story on Up at Noon. When we saw the trailer that morning, I cried. Like, I cried in the room in front of all my friends. I don't care. I'm an adult man. I don't call me what you want in the comments. I don't care.
They love you in the comments. Relax.
Thanks.
Call him Brian.
And this art style is so gorgeous and painterly, and I think it's doing everything that Skyward Sword couldn't do because of the technical limitations.
Yeah.
And then I went and played it, and I was like, ooh, this is jaggy and off-putting. And then 2 days later, I came back and tried it again, and I was like, oh, this actually looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like, So I don't know what that was.
I think they had some demo kiosks that weren't set up really well.
Yeah.
Like there was,
Yeah.
I played in one downstairs in the booth that wasn't that good. And I still think they have some work left to do. Like you come off Uncharted, and like you've seen a character climb a mountain any which way, and then you play as
Yeah.
Link, and Link is like,
Yeah,
well,
which
he's got this like,
but
he's got this really kind of janky way of climbing.
Hold up,
right?
but you've seen characters climb things in other games where there were specific hand or
Yeah.
footholds you need, whereas this one they don't even go for that. Like it is very much dependent on you can climb anything, and I think that's cooler regardless of it is a little sort of stiff.
I'm not talking about the gameplay element is awesome. I love that freedom, but the way he climbs, he looks like some weird sad beetle.
Well,
going
so
up
I
a
think-
wall, right? Like just the animation gets very repetitive when you're climbing a long distance. Whereas like I just played Uncharted, and man, there's so much variety in the movement of the character.
Okay, but the thing that Zelda has that Uncharted to me does not have on its climbing is that you are more excited for what's at the top of that mountain. Whereas
not
in
talking about
Uncharted,
that,
it's
though.
more about where am I going?
Jose, I'm talking about the visuals, and I think that's where Nintendo has to upgrade a little bit and make sure that there's a variety of animations, because they have it in the cutscenes.
Yeah.
Like the way the character moves in the cutscenes is brilliant.
Absolutely.
The combat looks really good.
Agree
It's
as well.
just, if you climb long distances, it'd be nice to have it not look so mechanical.
I think they need to, and they will, find that landing point between what is this art style and how does the animation fit into this art style? Because there is like a sort of goofiness that comes with a lot of that,
of course.
which I really like.
Yeah.
And some of it is skipping keyframes in animation, and others is just like right now if they just have a stock animation for something. But like Uncharted has its ups and downs, right? And I wasn't the biggest fan of Uncharted 4, but yeah, the climbing does look gorgeous in that game. But the art style they're going with in Breath of the Wild is so different and so special to me that I think that if they can, I mean, just the details we're pulling out already of just like,
well, and I think you guys are kind of well, maybe not you, but I think you are
Hater.
overlooking a lot of the smaller details that are in there. Like you have like for example, you can pick up a Stalbo Coblin's arm as a weapon, and when it's on your back, it is writhing the entire time.
Yeah.
These are small details that you would not pick up. The way things catch fire, the way things sort of move in general, to me, and combat especially, where if you pull off something like a perfect guard, it is a badass moment when you pull off the shield block perfectly and you see something repel and go straight back at him. So I think there are some places where the animation does kind of hold up pretty well. Climbing, you're right, not the best example.
No, but that's why I'm saying I'm glad the game has a couple of months in development.
Yeah.
I'm not crapping on Zelda. I think the game's awesome looking,
That's right,
really fun. But it's not done, and it wasn't done when it was shown, and it was rough around the edges. And I had a couple of moments where it ran really sluggishly, and I thought like the climbing animations were at odds with the beauty of the world, and the combat mechanics and feel and look was so good.
Yeah. So, but one thing that it did do that you will agree with, and I was not the person who came up with this, but I will just say it here: it convinced you on your first NX game. It sold you on your very first NX game.
Yeah,
that experience, 100%. The amount of promise. Do you have to run?
Yeah, but I was going to say,
of
course I'm going to buy an NX.
Yeah, no, but just the idea that like your first investment on an NX, the first game you're going to get is going to be a pretty good game.
No, like, and I've said this before on the show, but like, I mean, it wasn't the prettiest looking game, but playing Twilight Princess on the Wii when it launched, after bowling and Elebits and some of the other very kind of shallow experiences, and I know that like Wii Sports was pretty robust if you got into it, but to sit there and have like a 60-hour game to play at the console launch was awesome. And I'm incredibly excited for that to happen again. And I have no idea how this game's going to look on the NX. I assume it'll look even better, which like I'm just enamored with already. So
if the
bring it
rumors
on.
are true and this thing is at least Xbox One, PS4 levels, somewhere in between them even, that says a very good thing. And hopefully, like, just the anti-aliasing will be gone. The staircasing effect will be gone. It's probably not going to affect the animation game, but it will affect, like, sort of what you see over distances. Because another thing that I haven't heard either, one of you point out, is how much pop-up was happening.
Yeah, there was a lot.
There was a significant
kind of
amount
like
of that.
fade in the field.
I think everybody needs to remember that at the end of the day, the box of this game is going to have the Nintendo logo in the corner, and they've never shipped a janky, busted-ass Zelda before.
Yeah.
They will
Well,
make this right, and they will get it right.
And as we've said before, NX is going to support Amiibo. This game supports Amiibo.
NX going to give it to you.
NX going to give it to you.
I got to run, guys. I love you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
if
Brian.
they don't let you in, come back.
Yeah.
I'll be like, no scoop for you.
It was, I was excited to play it after the Nintendo demo and trailer reveal, but then when I played it, I was just like, I just, I didn't even want to do the story. I just wanted to explore and try out things.
Yeah.
Like it has this wonderful addictive feel to it where you just want to mess with the physics. And Bill said it really well last time, right? Like he was stacking bombs for hours.
Actually,
I have a chain reaction.
A funny story related to that. But before I go into it, I did want to talk about. I spent a ton of time climbing on our first demo because we were trying to basically get to something at the top of the mountain. And I love how when you start, if you don't have the right potion for it, you start like, okay, I need to have built-in rest stops for how to do this. So you're kind of looking for, okay, I'm going to go that way, then I'm going to go over to the right, then I'm going to go over to the left. And so I was crisscrossing until I got to the top of the mountain. Yep. And that's where I was able to find the dungeon that led to the stasis rune. And that was the first really cool rune that wasn't magnesis or the bombs that I had gotten. And it was so cool. Like, it was when I found out you can freeze an object in time, whack it with a hammer, and then just once stasis wears off, it goes off into the distance. To me, that completely blew my mind. So then the other story
stop talking about it,
related
man.
to Bill.
I just want to play it.
So after we recorded MVC, Bill took me downstairs to a kiosk because he wanted to try something he was hearing people were talking about on the show floor. And it was, so the way magnesis works in that game is that if you use magnesis, which is you can pick up any metal object, basically it turns you into Magneto in Hyrule.
And you can swing those objects around liberally and whack enemies.
But the way the game's
and stack
programmed,
them,
if your phone is made of metal. If your phone was the object I wanted to pick up, the rule for magnesis in the game is that you can't have physical contact with the object you want to pick up that's metal. So I can pick this up with magnesis as long as I'm not attached to it. And moving it around was a little weird. You can definitely tell the physics thing is cool that they're going for, but it's also like, it sort of bounces all over the place as a result, which is still kind of cool. So what Bill was trying to do was put down a metal door, put a box on top of the metal door, and then get on top of the box so that he wasn't physically touching the door he was trying to pick up, and then see if he can do just magic carpet it and get out.
Did he get it to work?
Every time he tried, and if you're watching the video, exclusive for you, basically it kept flipping over on end and almost crushing him, and he died, I think, once.
Wow.
But the way he was setting it up was really awesome, and maybe he didn't die. Like he ran to this one treehouse where the bokoblin were, and there's a blue bokoblin there who will wreck you, by the way. Blue bokoblins in this game are very deadly compared to the red ones. He picked up a metal slab, and he just ran towards their base with this big magnetic shape in his hands and a metal slab hanging in front of him, and he just smacked them all off of the treehouse. He knocked them into the river, he knocked some aside, everything died, and I was just like, the idea that you can even try something that weird to see what happens.
I wonder how they limit it though. Like this game is going to be very difficult to debug and to balance, right?
Yeah.
Like the old Zelda games, if you didn't have the hook shot, you couldn't steal the shield from the enemy, so that enemy was tough to beat. You had to get around him or something, right? Yeah. Like that was kind of the progression system where something was tough and then got easier because you got a weapon. In this game, you can get the weapon in the beginning if you know where to look.
Yeah, or if you're lucky enough to stumble upon it. No, and
That's
I agree.
So awesome.
It was fantastic. I will say a couple of other like stats that blew my mind. A lot of people seem really hyped for this thing. 7.2 million people watched this just on Nintendo's YouTube channel. The trailer for it alone, probably the most watched video they've had on that channel ever, I want to say, because I don't think I've ever seen anything hit that sort of number, and I could be wrong. Someone write in if you know, nvc@ign.com. And yeah, there's just that last thing of Nintendo just kind of quietly sold you an NX right there. Like, to me, they did. Anyone who was interested in that game saying, okay, now I'm a little more interested in what you're going to say when the system finally comes to light.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Whatever it may be.
I almost wish, like, they promised this game for the Wii U. They have to deliver this game for the Wii U, but I almost wish this was introduced as the next big game on the next console. It would have given it so much more oomph and excitement.
Well, it makes you wonder too what limitations sort of played into it. Like once this thing did switch to an NX, will be ported. If NX is technically superior, what could this game have gotten from just focusing on one platform versus being across 2 gens. Although we don't know what Nintendo's definition of that gen is going to be.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about some news. You ready for this?
Time for some news.
Guess what happened yesterday during a Nintendo investors meeting? So it was the first investor meeting of the fiscal year, and our NX Watch has begun with Peer doing what he's doing, but he's pantomiming. What he's doing is pantomiming Google Cardboard or VR. Apparently,
mark my words, that's going to be Nintendo's VR solution.
So this is
you're going to strap the NX screen to your head,
to your face. This is. These translated comments come secondhand.
Yeah.
So a Twitter user by the name of nstyles was tweeting out meeting in Japanese, was tweeting what was being said at the meeting in Japanese. And then a good friend of the show, Cheesemeister, was translating those into English. And apparently Miyamoto said that not only was VR a big thing at E3, but that Nintendo was researching VR and that they have the core technology. They've been basically experimenting with it for the most part. That's not verbatim.
Any display.
Yeah.
With an accelerometer.
He said that right now long play sessions were the issue, he seemed to indicate. And he said that they want to release something that can be played for long periods, carries value, and is affordable. That basically Nintendo wants parents to feel at ease. Surprise! Yeah. Nintendo's working on VR. What is Nintendo not working on? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, again, I honestly think this is the Google Cardboard version of it.
You think so?
Yeah, like I mean, your Android phone, your Samsung phone is a VR device. It is again not the same as Oculus and Vive, and those two are not the same as PlayStation VR, which is a step down from those, right?
But okay,
I don't think. Don't misread this and think that the NX is a VR first device.
I don't think so.
It will not be.
I don't think so.
But the NX, you've gotten, I hope, a good indication that there is a portable element to that thing, and you would be able to use the same approach as with a Google Cardboard kind of device.
I mean, maybe that's the case. I mean, Nintendo is known, at least historically, you look at the company, it is about affordability. Even though Wii U was probably the most expensive system they've ever sold. Yep. $350 was the higher price point for Wii U, the black Wii U, the one that had a bigger storage space.
It's a pretty good selling point. Like if they bring out the NX and they said, and by the way, it's got VR in the box, general mainstream consumers are not going to make the distinction between the experiences, but they can see that the price point is a lot lower.
But what you're saying suggests that NX would be some sort of a tablet, smaller shaped device, something maybe the size of your phone right now.
Bigger.
With buttons. Yeah. Bigger with buttons. Yeah, but the bigger it gets, the harder it is to strap that to your face, right? Isn't that the problem?
Yeah. But I mean, think about it. Theoretically, you could put a gamepad on your face,
and you would look
it's
weird.
Not, the VR
the weight
goggles
distribution's all off.
The VR goggles have gotten a lot lighter over the years, but I gotta think that NX is not gonna be the clunky kind of heavy tablet gamepad. Hopefully, who knows though?
Yeah, right? It's hard to tell. But
maybe you take your TV and staple it to your head.
So I agree with you that I don't think NX is a VR machine first. On the topic of NX, Nintendo still dancing regarding, okay, there's a release window of March 2017, but we still have nothing to say because we want to avoid our competitors imitating our idea. It's this new concept, etc. Which, quite frankly, I'm kind of... If you're not watching the video, I'm just kind of grabbing my head right now because, okay, we're in July? We're about to be in July, all right? Yeah. And if you're planning for a March release, again, it's like what we said at the start of this year. You have to start talking about this at some point. Like, it's just, sorry, I'm begging on the table so much.
The cruise shop thing. Take off your shoe, man.
I have to. No, but I'm serious. You're reaching a point where you have to start saying more about this, especially because you learned at E3 what was rumored was true. Your competitors also have new boxes next year. Yeah. So even though you were trying not to get drowned out of the conversation, you might end up if you keep waiting.
Okay, but what you saw also at E3 is that this whole kind of worry about the competition cribbing your playbook is justified, because the reason why the Xbox One S was announced is because people have been talking about the PlayStation Neo, a upgrade to the 4 with 4K support, right?
Microsoft was talking about it prior to that.
But now you've got both Microsoft and PlayStation and Sony outputting basically the same concept. which is unusual. An upgrade to an existing console with slightly improved capabilities.
Yeah, unprecedented. Never been done
doing
before.
it at the same time. And so I think Nintendo is justified. If there is some unique hook to this, to say, you know what, we don't want to play our cards all the way yet. But that's not to say that they can't reveal a little bit of it. Like the Wii, right? Like the Wii opened motion gaming, and then let's not kid ourselves. The PlayStation Move was a Wii controller with a clown nose on it, right?
And Xbox Kinect was that concept, but I hit the mic.
Same
that concept,
different.
but done with camera tracking motion and etc.
Yeah.
Basically, the motion war started from that point.
But I mean, if the rumors and what we've heard about the NX are true, that doesn't sound like a concept you can easily copy. You know, like like a new console. Like they're not going to change the design of the console to be something more like what Nintendo is working on. They're not going to regress the hardware to be more affordable to do something like Nintendo is doing. And so I feel like I don't know. Maybe there's something very unique about the controller, and Nintendo just doesn't want to show
but I
that.
also think maybe it's that. I also just want to kind of emphasize that at least Nintendo follows very core values with all of the products that they make, right? And you can find some of those. Hey, Martin Christopher Sleva joins us once again on Nintendo Voice Chat. He's subbing in for Brian. I desperately was texting to get him to come out.
It was lifelike.
Yeah, thank you.
So we were just talking a little bit about basically something that happened last night at the Nintendo Investors Meeting, which you saw the story on IGN. Miyamoto sort of confirming that Nintendo is very much researching VR, which also we did not say, Peer, you and I say, but it's a smart move for them simply because VR is a major part of games as a conversation right now. And I think it would be foolish for Nintendo to act like that's not important or that's not an industry that they should be keeping an eye on.
Also,
but,
Nintendo researched VR 23 years ago, and it came out.
It wants your
I bought one
eyes.
for very cheap from Toys R Us.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, this surprises me, none whatsoever.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm really curious. Like, I don't know what you guys have said so far, but like, I highly doubt any of this will be what is in NX that we see next year.
We've said the same thing.
Yeah, totally. But you'd be foolish to think that they wouldn't be doing this. Like, they are a forward-thinking company. They are a company that thinks outside the box and looks at, they brought motion to the living room. They brought 3D to the living room. They bought the analog stick.
Well, look at this larger venture for the company. Glad that ended in ad and not something else.
The little seat. Remember, we all use those little CDs for
shoulder
a long time.
buttons.
Yeah. I did want to point out though that as there's also just this big entertainment initiative for the company, right? Of trying and sampling being more than just video games, which VR is very much, that's part of that pipeline. Is it's not just for games, it could be for a bunch of things. You could have some kind of Mushroom Kingdom or Zelda Hyrule experience that you can just have someone strapped to their face and it's made from the ground up specifically for VR because we couldn't figure out how to make it a game, but we wanted to give you something cool.
Yeah, I mean, this more than anything, I would love. I don't want Nintendo investing in the R&D for hardware. I'm like, this is one of those. Don't try to go toe to toe with Oculus and with Facebook back. Like,
and Sony, that's a consumer electronics company. They're gonna make it cheaper than you.
Yeah. So instead of focusing on that, focus on experiences. Like, make something that can maybe exist across multiple ones of these. And I totally agree with you.
They're not going to put a PS4 game out, though. Like, they're not going to do that. I mean, they'd rather give it to Oculus and probably rather give it to Vive than give it to Sony.
By the time any of this comes around, I'd be surprised if this many contenders are still in the VR market.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we're going to have Samsung Gear and PSVR and Vive and Oculus all around in a couple of years. But that being said, like, God, I would, like you said, like, imagine Nintendo Land, not even with like interactivity, but Nintendo Land, like wandering around these spaces that we've wanted to wander around since we were kids.
Yeah, and they've been very good at that. So then we transitioned the conversation just talking a little bit about an X. And I was going to bring up, so Nintendo, as the company that they are, likes to pride themselves on their core values, which they list actually on their investors website. And it does in a lot of ways define who they are, right? Originality, flexibility, sincerity. Sincerity, basically making something, accumulating trust can create great change is what they call it, in order to develop and try and learn from our experiences day to day, and just being innovators in gaming with originality, right? Because we're talking about, they're still saying we don't want to show an X because we don't want imitators. And it's like, well, it's a little too late for that. Those guys already started their plans. And quite frankly, if you want to sell this thing to people, you got to start marketing it You got to start saying things about it.
And also, if this thing's going to be out in 8 months,
March 2017.
Like, it takes a long time to imitate. Like, no one's going to.
Yeah.
Also, like,
but see, that's why I think I mentioned before you stepped in. I think it may be related to the controller, because like having a special controller is something that is easily copied.
But let's
in
scale
a shorter
back.
time period.
Let's open past gaming for a second, right? When Apple introduced the iPhone, how long did it take everyone else to catch up? It took a while.
Well, that's
it wasn't overnight.
But
that you
that's an
saw like your
OS.
Androids and you saw your other competing phones
but
figure out how to do that.
But the device, building the device was not an issue for Samsung. It was the OS and actually making something that is that good in portable format. Right?
People copied the general idea, I think, pretty quickly from Apple, but it took a very long time for someone to do it as well as Apple.
Yeah.
And like you said, the OS.
And as Android eventually
totally,
sort of rose to prominence.
And then,
it
I mean,
became the
I
alternative.
do want to give PlayStation, Sony some credit on this
Absolutely.
too. They had the iToy, right? They had motion gaming before Nintendo had
They did.
essentially, right? And
That's
so
right.
they may have played around with a lot of these ideas and have thought about ways to bring them to the market. And then when you see a success like the Wii, that's when you accelerate that plan and you move forward on a project that otherwise would have come out in 2 years. And I think that's what Nintendo's worried about.
Yeah, and also, I think perfect, like you said, like whatever the NX controller is, whatever its hook or whatever makes it so different than Microsoft and Sony's traditional gamepads, I would not be surprised if in some like Indiana Jones bunker in both Microsoft and Sony, there are patents for ideas that are sort of like that. Because we see these patents leak every day for the weirdest looking controllers. The NX controller that looked like the dowsing rod or whatever you use.
Yeah, or there was a U-shaped magnet thing that it was like, that's how you're going to play the next Mario Kart.
Yeah, I mean, it really doesn't cost money to patent anything. So it's just anyone has the weirdest idea, and you're like, I'll patent it.
Yeah, Altano has the funniest joke because he said, "Why are all patent artists terrible?"
Isn't that weird?
Patent drawing is
I think
awful.
you gotta be. But then there are also concepts, right? Like crossplay, for example, or like Xbox Live, right? Like there are things that you can copy, like the concept of saying of marketing. Hey, from March on, the Xbox One will allow you to play all Xbox games across PCs, Macs, and phones. That is something that you can market effectively against a company like Nintendo without even having it done, right? And so I think they're worried about that kind of approach, but partially I think they just don't know. They also don't want to talk about it before the holiday season, right? Like they want the Wii U's and the 3DS's last hurrah.
What? No,
That's
you
not
need
a
to.
hurrah.
No, first of all, not a hurrah. Second of all, if you wanted it to even be a, you would have announced something for Wii U for November, which so far there is nothing special. At least that's on our radar that I've heard of.
Not even nothing special.
No, 3DS is getting a new Pokemon game. They're going to be fine.
There you go.
No worries there.
Totally.
It's Wii U that right now.
Yeah,
is just
the
like,
Nintendo iPhone is going to get Pokemon
you're
too.
quietly letting this thing, and Nintendo. I love this. I saw this in a Rolling Stone article from our good friend Simon Cox wrote this, but he said this year Nintendo plead the fifth when it comes to talking about their next venture because they don't want to and they're not ready. But man, you guys got to start talking soon. So then our final news story is something else that came out of this investors meeting, which is that Zelda Breath of the Wild has had, first of all, there's a staff of over 100 people who worked on the game or are currently working on the game. Over the last 5 years, there have been 300 people in the credits who have worked on this game. So this is like Assassin's Creed level. Like, holy cow.
I think Assassin's Creed has over 1,000
now.
right?
Now,
Well, Mighty Number 9 has 70,000 names in its credits.
yeah, but we all paid for it. So then, and he said that basically, in order to recoup the production costs, they were hoping this thing has to sell basically 2 million in sales
which it will.
for that to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about that.
yeah.
Like, that's not one of the... What was the game? I think Final Fantasy 15, Square's number was 10. No, I'm like, 10 million is a lot.
Worldwide.
And granted, it's on two
Remember,
platforms.
worldwide.
And,
Two vibrant platforms in Japan.
Yeah,
Well, I feel like Square has screwed up projections before too, because I feel like the first Tomb Raider reboot had some insane
They're like, this is
number
a
of
failure. And it's like, no, this sold like 5 million copies. We're totally
what
fine.
are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
Game development is expensive. I mean, they want to recoup their costs and build these franchises to be bigger.
So there's how many Wii U? 15 million Wii U's out in the wild?
I want to say less than that. It's probably 12 over 13.
Over 10.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's over 10.
It's
for
over
sure.
10, and then
It's like 58 3DSs in the world.
Okay,
So it's 58 million.
So just
58 million.
huge. Yeah,
58
just,
million.
that
58
I
million.
have most
that
of
old
them.
chestnut.
58 million.
No, I mean, but it's at that point where I'm like, who the hell has a Wii U that isn't going to buy this game? Like,
Well, the ones who are buying it for
seriously.
NX,
For NX,
so
which is
that's
totally
fine.
fine. Like, I think this thing clears 2 million just fine.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with you.
Yeah.
Especially because it had such a, like, maybe if it had a disastrous showing at E3, and I was like, ooh, what
Well,
are
we
they doing with
jokingly
this
we
game?
called it like Nintendo was going. This was the E3 nightmare, brought to life, and then actually it just ended up being the E3. I don't know, tropical storm.
What
Not
was the disastrous showing? Oh, the
No, just that
by
they were
going
only
just
showing Zelda as the
Oh,
only
I
playable
see,
game.
yeah.
That we
Okay.
kind of guessed there would be smaller things around
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
The Treehouse Live, which ended up being true.
Yep.
Overall, it's kind of crazy when you think about it that they went in with the lowest expectation, then walked out with Game of Show. From a lot of us, ourselves included.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was that good
Was
of a
there
demo.
ever any doubt that a Zelda game would be awesome? I mean,
No, there
Right?
never is.
like that was never what I was
What
worried
was
about.
Skyward Sword's E3 showings like? Were they good? Like, I don't remember. I wasn't at those E3s.
So that was my first E3 was Skyward
2011?
Sword's Skyward Sword's stage show that's where they had the infamous the Wii remote
Yeah, that
wasn't
was
picking
not a
up
good
because of
show.
calibration.
Yeah.
And also,
I thought it looked fine, but
Yeah.
I was willing to accept. Oh, there's technical issues happening here.
and that game had, I think people really liked for the first time actually having the one-for-one control, right? Like you got to mess around with like fighting enemies.
That was the selling point. Yeah.
this way, that way. So I think it had a decent showing after that terrible demo.
Yeah.
A lot of interference.
Yeah, but Breath of the Wild had a sort of singular showing. Like I had in my 5 E3s, I've never seen a game that so many people were like, I got to go to this, I got to line up for this, I got to go
Yeah,
again.
you saw that video where folks just ran towards the
Yeah.
kiosk on the last day of the
Yeah,
show.
totally. And it's a game that, like, not only it's Zelda, so yeah, Zelda fans, you're fine. But also, lapsed Zelda fans are looking at this and like, oh, this is something different. Like, this is a game that is aware that it is a video game in 2017 and that is aware of the changes that have been made in video games since, honestly, Ocarina of Time. Because the series hasn't really moved the goalpost that much since Ocarina of Time. I'd say
they've been following the framework for the entire thing.
I adore Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, but I feel like this was
Facts
the
are
first
facts.
one that was just like, all right, we are sort of changing what this series means here, and I think they did it in a really smart, exciting way for a lot of people.
I think the most cynical comment I've heard lobbied at Breath of the Wild is this looks like baby's first adventure game. I'm fine with that. Like even if that were the case, to me, the idea of the scope of what this adventure is, to me, is enough.
Yeah.
That is exactly what I want. I want to be able to venture off of this great plateau and just find whatever experiences I find, whatever treasures I find, whatever weapons I find. And if those combinations come across as kiddie, guess what? This is a company that makes entertainment for all ages. If you were expecting Skyrim or past that, or Witcher 3 or 4, I don't think that's a realistic expectation for Zelda.
It's also, I mean, that's a really superficial analysis. Like, you play that game for 5 minutes, you probably get your butt kicked by an enemy, right? Like in the demo we played,
Steep talus.
the rock dude could kill you instantly, the blue bokoblin guy could kill you instantly, you could fall off the world. Like, there are all these things you come to terms with. You throw your sword away by accident.
Like some of us.
And like, it's definitely, it is not a game that holds you your hand and makes it really easy.
Right.
And also, like, if there's people who are mad that are like, well, I want this to be like Skyrim where I can pick up any book and read it. I'm like, who the hell reads every book in Skyrim?
funny,
Like, I don't want that. I would rather have 1% of what's in Skyrim, but stuff that I'm actually interested in.
I get so angry when I pick up spoons by accident.
He said that earlier.
Why is this in the game? Why
like,
did you do
no.
this? Someone did this. Someone like spent overtime and like didn't have dinner with their kids because they had to bottle the stupid spoon you had to pick up. Why?
I feel like the frickin' Dragonborn could sit down for 1 second and decide, I'm not going
gonna
to
do this.
pick up
Yes,
household
yes,
ms ever.
Like, I don't know if there's like is there a
that and the
PC?
apology button would be nice.
No.
All right.
Nah.
Thank you so much for subbing in quickly,
Yeah.
Marty. So we are going to take a break, but most of this cast will not be here because after this we're going to go into Pokemon Go impressions. So Marty, how do they find you on the Twitter?
You can find me at Mick Biggity with 2 G's and 2 T's.
And how do they find Brian Altano on the Twitter?
He is at Agent Bizzle, 2 Z's.
And how do you find Peer Schneider on the Twitter? No, I'm kidding.
Where are
Like,
you?
he's not here.
IGN.
Yeah.
Super
IGN.
easy.
Peer
I've
IGN
never
is
said
pretty
your
easy.
I've never said your Twitter name before.
Pure IGN.
Pure IGN.
Peer IGN.
Yeah,
It's
I don't
Mr.
think I've been
Peer
on the Marty Beyond.
Some of us have not either. Yeah, there's a few of us in this room.
Wow, yikes.
Pressure. All right, well, we got to take a quick break, and when we come back, Pokemon Go. Don't go anywhere.
All right.
Hit stop on the camera.
Here we go.
Welcome back. Jose Otero here with a very different panel and a very special episode of Nintendo Voice Chat, where we're going to talk to you about the Pokemon beta. So we're going to try and keep this segment contained to half an hour, simply because this was recorded after work and people want to go home. I don't know if you realize that, but we have lives. But let's introduce this panel. Miranda Sanchez joins us.
Hello.
Andrew Goldfarb joins us.
Hello.
And Kallie Plagge is joining us once again.
Hello.
So let's go around the room real fast. Say your level you attained in Pokemon Go, how many Pokemon you have caught. Oh wait, yeah, how many Pokemon in your Pokedex, and how many you actually caught, which are all relevant stats that will make sense to you in a few minutes, I promise.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am level 4. I caught 43. In my Pokedex, I have 26, and I'm a gym leader.
Nice,
man.
nice.
Gonna-
That's the extra stipulation on
Yeah.
that. All right.
Bonus.
I am level 4, but getting close to 5. I have 23 in my Pokedex. I've caught 44, and I went to a gym and died a whole bunch and only won one sad battle.
There is a tough gym by your house, though, which
also, there's
does not
like-
play around.
If you go to the subway right by work, there's a dude with like a crazy, his like thousands of HP. I can't come close
Yeah,
to it.
no, I couldn't come close to it either.
Not that I would go to Subway.
All right, so I am a level 6 Pokemon trainer. I have 46 Pokemon in my Pokedex. I have caught 125 of them. And I'm
should've
also
gone last.
a gym leader. I should have gone last, and I'm sorry, Kallie.
How do you follow that?
I apologize. Yeah, I went a little crazy with this. All right, you're up.
I'm level 4, also approaching 5 like Andrew. I have 30 in my Pokedex, and I've caught 71.
Nice.
And I also went to a gym and lost because I am also in a high. There's a lot of field testers where I live, and those gyms are hard.
Yeah.
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 All right, so we're. Oh, no, go ahead.
I stood there for so long. I was like, I am gonna win this gym.
There's a
Yeah.
gym. There's a gym like near my CVS that I go to, so I walked to CVS, and I was like, I might as well challenge this gym, and I got wrecked.
I was
Yeah.
on a really awkward street corner. I was like,
Me
whatever.
too. Me too. I'm like on the
Nice,
street,
nice.
like just tapping my phone, and people are walking by. Like, this isn't the weirdest thing I've seen in this city, but okay.
Which, yeah, and we're going to get into that because even
Yeah.
though it's called Pokemon Go, it is very much Pokemon Go and stop and go and stop and
Yep.
go
Yes.
and stop and go and catch a Pidgey and then go. Yeah, there's a lot going on. And just lastly, Miranda, even if you didn't take that gym, you got a Jolteon, which is
That's
probably
nice.
one of the coolest Pokemon that has been collected, at least of this
Want to
group.
update and say I've now caught 45 Pokemon?
That's
Andrew.
nice. Pay attention. All right, so we're gonna break this down. So if you're not in the know and you're wondering, well, what is Pokemon Go? First of all, you may be living under a rock, and that's fine. But Pokemon Go is a mobile collaboration between Niantic, who formerly made a game called Ingress. They used to be a part of Google, but then they spun off on their own. The Pokemon Company, who are the stewards of the Pokemon brand and make a bunch of Pokemon spin-off games. And lastly, Nintendo, who's involved in this as well, being that they are creating and selling the Pokemon Go Plus, which we don't have access to yet, but this is an accessory that you can use with this app, which you can play on your iOS or Android device. So we got into the Pokemon Go field test this weekend. We started on Saturday, and we're going to break down our experience across 4 categories right here. So we're going to start with the catching them all, the collection aspect. We're going to then head into battle, talk about exploring in our neighborhoods and how cool that was, and then lastly, what do we want to see going forward from Pokemon Go. So we're going to try and make this as entertaining for you as possible. Let's start with collection, which hooked me right away, but I want to lead off with you guys talking about it. So what was that experience like for you guys? Because it is very different than the games, and we have to stress that for folks listening.
Go ahead. Miranda.
Yes.
You're
so
ready.
Jolteon.
Yeah, you got that Jolteon.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like a lot of times you see the Rattata, you see the Pidgey, they are everywhere. But sometimes in the bottom corner of your screen, you can pull up a little menu and see how close certain Pokemon are. You'll see their silhouettes if you haven't caught them yet or seen them. And I saw the outline of a Jolteon, knowing what Jolteon looks like, and I just like left my house immediately. I had just gotten home and it's like hot, and it's like, oh hey, I'm home, and I checked Pokemon Go. I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a little game of who's that Pokemon in the bottom right
Yeah.
corner.
Yeah.
Like if you haven't seen the anime, that was always fun when I was a kid. I was like, I'm really good at recognizing silhouettes.
We were training for this all along.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this has been many years in the making, but it is really cool to, like, I turned around for a Ghastly, because I love Ghastly. I almost turned around for a Snorlax, but I was late to a thing I had to be at work. I was late to work.
For some reason, going up to your boss and saying, I was late to work because I had to go catch a Squirtle, which almost happened to me. I was running late on Tuesday, I want to say, or on Monday, and it showed up. So you can see on your app who are nearby, like Miranda said, and if it's one you have caught, it's a filled-in silhouette. If it's one you haven't caught, you have to be able to tell, and props to you for being able to tell, you guys to be able to tell which ones they are, because I'm a bit more casual with the series, but I know what a Squirtle looks like, and I was like, basically you then have to vaguely figure out which direction it's in, because it only tells you how many meters it is away, and the number can go up or down depending on where you're going. Now, someone actually, when I told them about that, and I said, I walked for like 10 minutes and then I missed my window, and they were like, were you not frustrated by that? And I was like, I don't feel like I was, just because I feel like this is what you're signing on for. This game is very much about Pokemon in the real world, and you have an opportunity to catch them, and you're either going to stumble on them or you're not.
Yeah, I think that the thing that drew me in about the collection aspect is that it's not super easy, depending on if you're walking in the wrong direction, you realize too late, or sometimes Pokemon run away like they do in the games
when you catch them.
Yeah, when you're trying to catch them. So I liked that. Like, I felt that's why I turned around for that Ghastly, right? Because I was like, I've seen plenty of Rattata, like I've seen plenty of Pidgeys, but I haven't seen Ghastly yet. I gotta turn around for Ghastly, and I thought that was really interesting, because in the games, in the 3DS games, I mean, this is also a game, if you see a Pokemon in one place, almost always, unless it's a legendary, you'll be like, I can come back later, and I can go on Wonder Trade. And like, this was like, I gotta go outside and do this myself. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna feel accomplished. Yeah, that's what I liked about it.
Yeah, and I spent most of Saturday like out of the house, and I don't really explore my neighborhood. I live up in the East Bay. By the way, we have an awful Zubat infestation problem. Like, I swear, like, how many Zubats do you catch on the daily? I would say many. Many.
Yeah, and Pidgey. Zubat and Pidgey are everywhere.
Yeah. But then I would walk to the mall nearby and just find a bunch of different things on my way, screenshotting them all, and I gotta say that the graphics of this thing, I've tried AR games before and have always felt slightly disappointed because the technology involved always felt very creaky. Like, at any moment it can break, or the graphics of the thing that they're trying to show me just didn't look that great. They look awesome. Like, they're very simple. They're not super shaded or very detailed. But at the same time, when you take your photos out in the real world, which we're not allowed to share, we were told, like, you can't do that.
They have some on the Pokemon Go information page already. So
good point. Yeah. They look fantastic. And Magikarp looks like he's in trouble no matter where you take a picture.
Oh yeah, we're taking a lot of funny Magikarp pictures, and I think it's worth noting that this is, as far as we know, the first 150 Pokemon, so first generation Pokemon, which means they are going to be, their actual designs are less detailed, so I think that helps with the AR. The way it looks is you're not dealing with some of the more detailed designs that you see in later games. But I thought it's very charming, like a little Clefairy, like Clefairy looked so nice in my, like, a dinky part of my apartment. Like, I was catching Clefairy, and there's like sort of like this like stack of games I haven't organized yet, and it's in the background. I'm like, man, I gotta clean my apartment. I cleaned my apartment because I was like, Clefairy looks bad. I gotta make
What's Clefairy gonna think of
Clefairy's
me?
gonna judge me. Like it was so cute. I wanted to take a screenshot, but I was embarrassed because, like, it's this cute little pink fairy.
Yeah.
It's that weird, like, when it looks bad, it's generally my fault. Like, if I'm like, when I'm playing the game how you're not supposed to, if I'm like laying like a lump with like peanut butter stains all over my chest, and like I'm like, oh, there's a Pidgey, and I'm like playing it like lying on my back, then like the zoomed in AR angle looks awful because it's like a crappy, awful reflection of me in the distance or something, and it zooms in on it. But if you're playing it like up and walking around, it really does, like, number one, it like never feel they don't look out of place weirdly, because like, of course they're out of place, but they still look right.
Yeah,
and the 3D models, like, once you catch them in your Pokedex, you can like look at them and like spin them around and stuff, and it's like, I like the style of it. It's not trying to make them look real. It's just making them look like that, almost that Pokemon Stadium art style a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, no, and I think that's really important. And then to catch them, you're lobbing Pokeballs at them.
Yep.
And so there is no battling between your Pokemon and that Pokemon, which completely rewrites the way we've been playing and interacting, I feel, with most Pokemon games.
It's sort of like how Ash Ketchum in the anime sort of approached he was just kind of like, I'll find a Pokemon in the grass, oh my god. Like,
but it works.
Yeah, the first time when Jose, when you and I went on our first walk around the Embarcadero, that's the impression I got, that this was more like the world building of Pokemon than the mechanics of Pokemon. I mean, that's the big difference that we do want to stress, is like it feels very different, but it also feels the same as far as the sense of adventure goes. And so I think I like that I don't have to whittle a Pokemon's HP down and get, and now I have, Thunder Wave and it's paralyzed, so that'll increase my chances by whatever percent it is. And
you don't have to do that thinking.
As someone, I have all this math in my head somewhere because this is the kind of thing I care about with the mainline series.
No, and then you also have Pokemon who will straight up Matumbo a Pokeball. They'll have an animation where they'll jump up and slap, and they just hit the ball away, and it's like, nope, not yet. And then you have to make a decision of, okay, is it because, like, if you see an art, so there's this weird catching mechanic that at first doesn't hit you right away because there's a white circle and then there's a green circle within it that gets smaller, but sometimes that green circle instead is orange, which means you have a less likely chance. Red means you have an even lower chance of catching in, so you have to use a different Pokeball to increase your chances.
And yet, even when it's big and green, they'll come out.
I feel like it's not guaranteed.
It's a very unclear system.
It's like, why is the circle getting smaller?
Why is it contracting? I experimented
I thought
with
it was a time thing. Like, I thought it was if the circle gets too small, they're going to flee. But nope, it just comes back. Like, I never... Also, like, I probably have, like, done awful things in terms of littering Pokeballs all over the environment of San Francisco because, like, I bought, like... Because, like, at least the field test, I'm sure it won't be like this in the final thing, but we get kind of refresh money every day for the store. I'm imagining that won't be in the real life game.
Probably real money.
Generous.
Yeah. So, like, every day...
Or it might be based on some achievements in the game. I wouldn't be surprised if they have some way to give you some money, but I wouldn't be surprised if the majority is money you're paying.
Because every morning I would turn it on, and it would be like, oh, the professor gave you a gift, and I would have 2,500 coins to spend, and I would just buy, like, 400 Pokeballs because you buy them in increments of 100, and then I could just kind of willy-nilly just like,
And to make it clear for folks, this is a field test, right? And so, but even the description of how to catch is very loose. I'm looking at it, and there's a screen within the game that says, when a Pokemon appears, throw a Pokeball on it to try and catch it. Like, they don't explain the circle system to you, so I feel like that's why we were kind of flailing for a little bit. But based on how hard you swipe on your screen depends on, or how far you swipe, depends on the velocity and how far the ball travels. And then you can put some spin on it. You could throw a curveball at it. You actually get style points for catching them with like a curveball or
and
a
I've
nice
gotten
throw
more
or a
confident
great throw.
with it too. Like like those. And when you get a great, you're like,
I'm like,
get in there. Come on.
Well,
Give me the Pokemon.
I'm like, look, I'm on my way to Chipotle. I gotta do this.
Or if you're like walking with some, like we were walking with one of our coworkers to BART, and we're like, oh wait, sorry, we gotta catch this Pokemon super fast.
And luckily, we are in the position where our coworkers don't think that's weird. But I can imagine if I were, with people who didn't care about Pokemon, or like people who are like, Kallie, oh my God, we're going to dinner. Can you can you
You're
not?
the pallbearer at this funeral. You have to put your phone away.
Oh God. Yeah,
but there's a rare Pokemon.
There's ghost Pokemon at this
but there
funeral.
you can opt out of the AR stuff if you tap. So on the screen at the top right, there is a camera button that if you tap, it'll put up a generic day or nighttime background. So it does have a nighttime one, and you can just keep walking and just lob Pokeballs at it. The only thing is, lobbing Pokeballs does require you to kind of have some finesse to it. So it's a simple enough input, but it still requires a little bit of skill.
Yeah, so, like,
and so you might burn through a lot of Pokeballs.
Kind of hard.
I like that though.
It felt that way.
It's not just like an automatic. I pass by Pokemon and now it's mine. Like, I like that I have to do something.
And you feel like you earned it.
Yeah.
I mean, the most interesting thing I've heard was you talking about doing it in a car. Because that's crazy.
Not driving. She wasn't driving.
Yes, I was not driving. My boyfriend was driving the car. We were going home, and we had stopped just slow enough so that I could tap a Pokemon and try to catch it. And I found like an Onix, and I was like, you're mine. And so I was facing one way, but we had a really sharp turn, and so the Onix just like went behind me. I was like, no! But I didn't lose it, which is cool. So if you manage to tap one, so if you're like on any sort of public transportation, or if someone else is driving you, don't do it while you're driving, because it's terrible. Then you can still catch it, which is cool.
I did that while walking too. Like, if you, like, a couple times I would throw a Pokeball, the Pokemon would get in it, and I'd be waiting for the caught or not caught signal, and then the AR resets. So if I was angled, like, I turned a corner and I did the same thing where, like, the Pokemon was behind me, and I was kind of like, don't judge me, I'm doing this. And then it went in the Pokeball, and then when it came out and I had to do it again, it was in front of me, like, it reset, it reoriented. So that was cool. That was fine.
Yeah, and so I just feel like, even though it was a slice, and I think collection was probably the most fully featured part of one of the few fully featured parts of the app, because field tests didn't include trading. But let's transition then over to, let's talk about exploring a little bit before we talk about battle, because exploring is very important because you have to find and go to Pokestops. Who wants to define the Pokestops for folks listening? Go for it. Yeah.
So they decide Pokestops based on Niantic's previous game Ingress, kind of this crowdsourced data of important locations in individual neighborhoods. So Miranda's shaking her head. I'm not sure why yet.
Oh, you'll find out. I know why.
I remember why.
You should know why.
I know why. But usually they're murals. At least in my neighborhood, it's murals. It's historical buildings. There's a lot of murals in Berkeley, so I find a lot of those. When I walk around there too, and
when you get there, what do you do at a Pokestop?
When you get there, you kind of like flip this coin. It has a picture of the real life place, and you get items out of it basically. And so it's kind of like this. Oh, I don't have to pay for all the Pokeballs I use. Like Andrew was saying earlier, you can go to the store, buy Pokeballs. You can also earn a couple from Pokestops.
Yeah.
You also get your revives that way.
Yes.
And a few other things like there's some
Berries.
items you
Berries.
can't
There's a lot of different items that come out.
And as you level up, some higher powered items will show up. Like I was getting like max potions, for example, which I wasn't getting before because you hit a certain level. So it looks like that's part of it.
Yeah, and I thought one of the cool things about it is some of them, not all of them, had little bits of information about the place. So I was actually learning about the building that has the coffee shop I go to all the time.
Some of them are like really long too.
Yeah.
Like there's one actually right near the office that's like some like monument to a jazz musician. I read about it and I was like, I didn't know any of this.
Yeah, so it's interesting, and at least around where I live, they were really frequent in one direction and really infrequent in another, and it had to do with there's like a downtown area. But I know people had expressed concerns like, what if I live in a really small town? How am I going to get Pokestops? And I think the noteworthy thing is, at least for our field test, they refresh pretty quickly. So like I could walk away from a Pokestop and then walk back like 10 minutes later and I could do it again.
And you'll get XP from doing that as well, which is really cool on top of items. And it turned into this fun way to kind of learn more about my neighborhood. Like I feel like I know that was something that you had told me. And where I live, I didn't know, for example, there was a school like several blocks away in like I think it was the eastern direction. And I was like, oh snap, this is cool. Like I didn't know this was all here. Also, I learned some things have changed in our neighborhood since Ingress. So for example, there was this one spot. It was an electric box. Just sort of one that was protected, like covered by the electric company, but it had an R2D2 like sort of stencil that was on the back that someone spray painted on. I went to that thing, went around the corner. It's been buffered over, but in the app it says there's supposed to be an R2 there, and I was just like, they killed R2.
It's funny because there's one right near work too, like because I've been playing mostly at the office actually. I mean, I've been doing my job and working very hard. But yeah, it's like Rick and Morty mural, and I walked to it after work yesterday, and there's totally not a Rick and Morty. It's like totally been pointed over.
I remember it used to be Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
So it's weird because like that's why I was in the wrong place. But no, I'm shocked that or not shocked. It'll be better when more people have it, because I wonder if you're like a power user, you'll be able to like take a picture and like redefine a Pokestop or something.
Or will the community be able to sort of either redefine them or suggest them?
Submit them.
Because
in like my tiny town that I'm originally from, I would imagine that like there aren't like landmarks to people not from there, but people who've lived there for like 50 years are going to be like,
I can
this
tell you where
drugstore.
I'm at in the East Bay. It's not a huge town, but at the same time, I mean, it's near San Francisco and near Oakland, so it's not that bad. But there weren't that many, but like the post office was one of them, which every town will have. Or there was a Denny's, believe it or not, that was one of them.
So,
for all the Pokemon go.
So I think that's if you're really worried, some restaurants will be marked as landmarks, like it was for me.
So talk about this.
It's really weird. There is a barbecue restaurant somewhat near my house, and one of the landmarks was guns. Because there's like a gun display in the barbecue place. It was just like, what?
That's so weird.
Yeah, 21st Amendment was a Pokestop, by the way, which they serve alcohol there. I'm just like, hang on, there's kids.
There are a few that are weird, because there are a few that are like around this neighborhood are in gated apartment communities that you can't get to unless you live in that apartment complex. So like that's kind of weird.
Yeah, and so like so I try to go to that barbecue place, and you actually get very close, because most of them have a pretty good radius of like.
Yeah, you don't have to be like right in front of it usually.
Yeah,
there's one I can get from my apartment, like in my room.
Yeah, and I had to go like really far to the rest, like really close to it to get to the 2 that were in there. And it was just kind of awkward. I was like, don't think I'm weird. I just need a max revive. Just leave me alone.
Please. Yeah, and you don't have to be right on top of the Pokestop, which I think you guys have said. You can be across the street or you could be within a certain vicinity. One thing that was unclear is that underneath your avatar that shows up on a map, everything's displayed to you like some kind of a GPS, but you're not allowed to really scroll in every direction because they don't want you to use it as a GPS. I think they just want you to kind of be aware of what's nearby. Is that the circle underneath your character will sometimes expand very wide, and so you're able to reach a Pokestop fairly quickly. And then there are others where it's very small. The only other weird thing I had with exploring, by the way, the weirdest bugs I have been happening downtown. Now, this is a field test, so of course the nature of bugs is absolutely something that happens with these things. But like to see my avatar guy running around the bus station block because the GPS could not find where I was really weird. Like I was like, and I just kept getting Pokestops and kept running by a gym, but I couldn't challenge it because I never stayed there long enough to do it. So there was that. Yeah,
like the GPS is weird because you can't like move it. So like. I don't know, it was weird, like I didn't always know, am I going in the right direction? I imagine someone who's not from there might be like, wait, is it on this side of the street?
Sometimes my character would walk backwards. I was like, what are you doing? I'm going this way.
Exactly.
I do think like it was really valuable for me because having gone to school in where I live, and I've lived there since I went to school, it's really cool to see a different side of that town, like of that city, because I'll walk around and like I can go to the campus and I'm like, oh, they changed that building, and I hadn't done that since I left school, you know? Or I walked on a street I don't normally walk on and I found this beautiful church. Like that's what I liked about it, is the Pokestops encouraged me to go out of my way, not in an annoying way, like I wasn't taking crazy detours. I mean, I could have if I wanted to, but it was more like, oh, I get to go see this beautiful, lovely church that has this like heartfelt display outside of it.
Well, and I think that's part of it too, right? It did feel like a reason to go outside and get a little exercise, but there was a game tied to it. The only other thing I'd heard of that had a sort of a gamified health and fitness angle, and not to say that's what this was going for, but I heard of this app where you're listening to a soundtrack of a zombie apocalypse, and every once in a while you got to pick up the pace or you're going to get eaten, which is roughly it, I think. And I was just like, wait, what? First of all, I thought that was
it's
rad.
Sort of like a podcasty thing, Zombies Run. But
but that was basically the idea, and I was like, oh, that's cool. But this got me walking and just exercising and learning a lot more about where I live.
I literally stopped to smell a rose.
Oh,
it was really cute. Yeah,
poetic. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it very much. All right, cool.
One final note.
Yeah. If
you're driving around and trying to get Pokestops or on public transportation, it does not work because you're probably moving too fast, and once you get out of range, it will not let you collect it.
That's important to know.
Yeah, it works for, like you were saying earlier, like if you have even a split second to see a Pokemon, you can get one toss off, and if you're really lucky and get it from that, you can still catch it, even if you're like a mile down the road theoretically. But yeah, Pokestops, you have to kind of linger.
Yeah, no, good point. All right, so then let's head over to Battle. Battle is probably the thing that Andrew liked the most, I think, of this app. And the only place that battling exists is at gyms.
I feel like battling is weirdly the thing that is probably the most unique to Pokemon Go in some kind of weird way, because obviously, even in core Pokemon games, you're still collecting, you're still stopping by town centers and buying things, and there's like kind of versions of all of that, and obviously gym battles are sort of similar, but the battles themselves are much more specific to mobile, I think. They're not turn-based, you're not really learning moves, you're not even really doing worrying about weakness and stuff the way you would. I mean, I think you are. I think
there are type weaknesses.
There's
still that.
Still effective.
But you only have 2 moves, so it's not like you can like really. And that was the only thing. You can switch Pokemon, but I was confused about how. And I've only done 2 gym battles, so this is actually something that you guys can probably speak a little better to. But like the basics of
it's
it.
Not good.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't like it.
It's very simplified. It's basically you have 2 moves. One of them is that you can tap, and the battles are real time. They're not turn-based. So you can tap and use kind of your weaker attack, or if you hold, you're essentially charging up your stronger attack.
Yeah, special
And that's
attack.
the one that tends to be more of like the weakness-oriented, like use electric.
That only charges as you do your basic attack.
Yeah.
So once that charges, which is different for every Pokemon, then you can use it to do your attack.
Yeah. So then talk about your gym experience.
Yeah, so changing Pokemon was a hassle.
Yeah.
So because it is real time, you don't have a second to stop and change. So like you're risking your Pokemon's life if you're changing. So it's like really hard. It's like this one's getting too low. It's like, oh, this is not optimal. It's like, well, it's probably gonna get wrecked while you're trying to change it. So good luck.
Yeah.
Also, the dodging system is kind of a thing. So you just like swipe, and
Yeah,
all
you can
your
dodge.
Pokemon can go either way. But it feels really bad. Like it doesn't. I did a few effective dodges, and
Yeah, it wasn't
didn't
like your average
make
QTE
sense.
where okay, my window is coming up, or even take something that's very timing based, like I don't know, like a Rhythm Heaven Megamix or something, where like where the beat is that you have to look for in a song. In battles, it wasn't clear when was the right time to swipe and move. It just didn't seem very clear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's not very good animation cues, which is all right, but it just felt like the dodgings that I did, because I did like constantly dodge and just didn't feel effective.
Yeah, when I was trying to do it, I normally screwed it up, and I did like 3 by mistake, though. When I was trying to hold down to activate a move, I actually kind of swiped it awkwardly, and that dodged, which is really weird.
So I'm hoping it's just a result of being a field test and not having like all the tutorial pieces in place to kind of teach us how it was supposed to work, which I'm not sure one way or the other whether it was, but it did feel really simple and it very different. I think the thing that may have rubbed some of us the wrong way too is that it is the only way to battle in the field test.
Yeah.
So like, picture a world full of trainers where everyone's carrying around a roster of Pokemon on their phone, but you can't challenge another person in real time. That doesn't seem to be part of Pokemon Go yet. And
That's
it's something
my
that
whole
we'll get
problem.
to later. We
Yeah.
hope will be a part of this, because that's kind of a fun part of the game, right? We locked eyes and it's like, get your phone out, let's do this.
Yeah, it's time
Yeah.
to go.
Yeah.
I've only done that in real life with 3DS once, and that was really cool. But I mean, like the other thing is like I couldn't practice. I practiced actually at a gym far away from stuff, and then I went kind of closer to where things are. And one of the gyms is like this pizza place, and it's in the middle of the street, and I can't just stop there. And like, so there were things that bothered me about that setup where I can't like. It's not like I'm challenging in a. I just really wish I could challenge people and like get used to the battle system. And before I go to someone, like some of the gyms near me were crazy strong.
And some of
that's-
the
I don't
gyms
know
aren't
how they-
exactly in the best place.
Well,
Like
that's
one of,
what I mean,
Yeah, like
yeah.
one of mine was like by a highway entrance, and there was no good way to like just stand around. So I just kind of like got by a crosswalk and kind of got in a corner.
I'm
was like,
picturing
I'm
this
gonna
in my
be
head.
here.
I'm like, what?
It was also really dark, and I was just
yeah.
like,
That's the
nobody
scary
talk to
thing is
me.
like, you're like, oh, I wandered onto a street I never go down. There's a beautiful church, but it's like, oh, I wandered down a street I never go down, and I got shot. Like, it's like you think about, I mean, I didn't. I'm saying hypothetically, like, it is worth thinking about like where this stuff is. And I
Right.
think the battle system is weird to me because, I mean, you started this by saying it's the thing I like the most. It's more that like the battles themselves aren't really what I like. It's sort of the break in monotony is what I like.
Yeah.
Because I think for me, like I love Pokemon games. I've played every core Pokemon game except Black and White. But
That's okay.
I always like I never complete the Pokedex. Like for me, it's more about like that RPG stuff and picking my party and leveling them up really high and taking on the hard stuff. So this game, like the collecting stuff is fun, but like the idea of battling and taking over gyms is kind of more up my alley. I just wish, like you're saying, that you could do it more. Like I wish, even if it was against bots or just something.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
as part of the
arena.
field test, they wanted you to just throw yourself at the mercy of a gym. But I think that when you encounter some of these gyms that the Pokemon are that powerful, it's kind of a turnoff. So I did take a gym. I walked far enough and found one that I was like, okay, this looks safe. I could probably take this one. And my first gym battle ended in defeat because apparently it seemed to be a one-on-one situation, and it wasn't clear to me that I had a party. Then on the next gym battle, I actually had a roster of 6, and I was able to swap
that
them in and out.
Happened to me too. Like I don't know what happened, but I only win with one Pokemon when you're supposed to have 6.
Yes, that's what kept happening to me.
So you can swap between them. So I set up 6. I set up my first, swapped between several because the fight was continuing. But the minute a Pokemon faints, so when I had the one-on-one battle and my Pokemon fainted, the gym run was over. Like it's like, okay, you failed, that's it, and you'd have to use the revive to wake up the Pokemon, etc., etc., etc. Whereas the second time I had my party of 6 and I went through 2 and I just blazed through all 3 and I stayed there to take over that spot until I took it from the red team and then put my own Pokemon there in its place. And that's where this weird metagame sort of changes too, because you're depositing one of your Pokemon as a gym leader there, and the reputation of that gym will increase over time, but you don't want to give them a good one.
So yeah, that's the hard
like
thing.
that was the hard
right?
thing for me. I didn't want to give up a good Pokemon.
Your best friend, supposedly, if your strongest Pokemon happens to be your favorite,
Yeah.
then it's like, hey, you don't want to leave one of your weaker ones there. Like
and you still own it, and it
but-
shows up on your screen every day, and it'll be returned to you if it gets kicked out of the gym, which is possible.
Yeah.
But in the field test, it wasn't a really clear sign of which way that would go. But that said, I did enjoy what I played of the battles. I felt like they were really simple, but I also felt like, okay, this is the only form of battle I see in this game, and so I'm okay with this. I just need more gyms that I feel like I have a chance with for me to really enjoy this. And right now, during the field test, I didn't have that, especially the one by the office, which is just that's a
crazy.
terrifying gym. Like Niantic must have taken over that gym like 100 times.
Yeah, because they're all like they're
pretty strong.
Even the lower level Pokemon in there. I mean, I say level; it's more the lower combat points Pokemon.
Yeah, that's like how you determine the strength of the Pokemon.
Yeah, there's no
points.
leveling for your Pokemon. You can strengthen them by powering them up, and you power them up by using candies. And the only way you get candies is by continuing to capture that type of Pokemon, which
you as
also
a
makes some of
trainer,
them feel disposable.
You have a level, and they have combat points and hit points.
And I think that as far as I saw, and correct me if you guys figured this out faster than I did, I think the levels are just to unlock sort of items and abilities for
So
yourself
far,
rather than for like your strength or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think I just realized this. It's also worth noting that you can join up with people to challenge a gym.
That's right.
So I think that might also have impacted our experiences. Like we couldn't all get together and like, I mean, maybe if we went out right now and challenged that gym,
And we could.
I would still, we'd
And
probably
that's what
still
Ingress
lose.
is, right? I believe Ingress
Yeah,
is
no, you're
people,
hacking
people
portals
Like that
people
was
working
like a
together.
big
Yeah.
part of the first trailer, right? It's like a bunch of people
Right.
like New York, like we're all
Oh, that
in
was the
Bellevue.
raid, and that's still like they're super hush hush about what raids are, but that was what you're talking
And we
about.
should mention the very first thing you do after you design your character and pick clothing and stuff is you pick a team. And there's four, I think three colors, four colors.
red, blue,
primary
yellow.
colors.
So you
Red,
pick
blue, yellow.
like we're blue and then
I'm
you're
yellow.
yellow, she's
I'm red.
Yeah, so it's like we're good, but like we all
Andrew and I are gonna take over the
I
world.
took over a blue.
I took over a blue gym. So
Oh,
there.
not for
man.
long.
Chill out.
But
Where's
in
your
the-
neighborhood again?
the tour that you and I took,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter if you're on separate teams.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you can challenge a gym. You don't have to like take it over, but you can weaken the gym.
Yeah,
that
you're
way.
both weakening that gym. That's correct.
Yeah, so it's something that I think, because right now I could see myself playing this game without ever doing battle because I do the hardcore battle thing on 3DS. I don't need another battle system that like it's just not really my style.
That's
but
700 Pokemon to catch again. You have plenty to look forward to.
do that hardcore IV breeding stuff. I don't need to do it.
Yeah.
But I can see myself enjoying it a lot more and actually going out and challenging gyms if I could recruit like a couple people and be like, yo,
Also,
let's all go.
To mention, what we mean to take down a gym is like each gym level has prestige that you can train, so you can go take your Pokemon and battle your Pokemon that you've stationed at a gym and raise the level of the gym by just like defeating your Pokemon, which is really weird.
Yep.
But enemies can go, and if they defeat the trainers that are there, then you lower the prestige level.
lower the
You have to
prestige
lower it to
enough.
0 in order to take it over. And so it could be like up to 2,000. You only lower it like maybe a few hundred every time.
Do you get
Yeah,
that
that's-
Pokemon back?
Yeah, you do. I mentioned earlier, you don't
Yeah.
get it back until it gets kicked out of that gym.
Yeah,
But
so that's
And
how
it just
that
appears back in your inventory?
It's
or-
always on your screen. It just has an icon of a gym over to the left of it.
So you don't have to physically go back to that gym to get it? Like,
No,
okay.
you do not. No, you never do.
Pick up
And
your
if you have
Pokemon.
Pokemon that you install that gym, so let's say you find a gym that only had one Pokemon, you're able to add yours to that list. You're able to ask for a defender bonus every day that Pokemon is still at that gym. So every morning I wake
Wow.
up and I get some XP for doing that, and I get some. I don't know if that might be also tied to the money. Like I'm not sure.
That's really
the
cool.
in-game
I wonder what
currency.
the range is. I wonder if I'm on vacation in New York and I do that.
I
think
think
you'd always
it
get your
would,
defender
because it's just
bonus. That's
GPS.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
That's really
shouldn't
cool.
be hard.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's overall like it's a pretty solid performing app. I mean, we had a few bugs. We saw a few things, no
That's what it's
GPS found,
for.
but this is
Not
what field tests are
anything
for.
Horrific. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was pretty smooth sailing. Just a couple. There were like visual bugs that didn't affect. Like sometimes the Pokeball would disappear.
Yep, it's happened
this
to me a
wasn't-
few times.
Yeah, a couple times. But I would still end up catching the Pokemon, and I would get the gotcha at the bottom, and
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, okay, the AR thing just messed it up a little
Yeah.
bit, but it's not a big deal.
So the weirdest thing I've run into to, though, in areas with low signal, which is where I'm at in the East Bay, signal strength is terrible. It is so bad. I ran into a problem where on a block where there was only one signal node left, and I love how you guys are playing Pokemon Go now. Stop.
It's almost over.
No, we're going to wrap up soon, I promise. I ran into this problem where I was trying to catch Pidgeotto, and it was in the middle of the animation, and everything froze because GPS was struggling to keep up. And I wish that the app would settle that itself. I don't know what's happening there, so I'm not going to pretend or play backseat game designer or know what's happening. But I do know that it bugged out to the point where I had to close the app. But then luckily when I opened it again, for whatever reason, I caught that Pidgeotto, so I was happy about that. So it had a happy ending, but it was a weird situation of like, oh, what's going to happen? I don't know.
I do love that feeling of when you missed one and then you get it. It's like, oh, like it was the one that got away. But
Yeah, and
no.
they tease you a little bit too. Like I saw a Taurus around the office, and then it kept getting away, and then at the bus, all of a sudden, oh, I got you. That's it. Caught.
Yeah.
So then what do we want to see for the future? Pokemon Go, we've played it for a couple days now. We definitely need to spend a little bit more time with battle, it sounds. But overall, what are some things we want to see down the line?
So
Trading. Sorry.
Yeah,
That's my only one.
Yep. That's the biggest one.
Biggest thing actually is not trading, but more of like spending time with your Pokemon somehow.
Yeah.
Because like this
Pokemon on me.
you have your Pokemon in your pocket, but like, well, I can just look at them, but not interact with them. I can tap it and they'll make their cry, but that's it.
And there's already been a Pokedex app on iOS that did that. Like that's the weird thing. Like I like the Pokemon to me idea of like being able to like make them happy, or like even if you could raise 1 CP a day by just being cute to them or something,
But like,
would be a cool idea.
petting them
That would be cute,
or something, like if
Taking
you find
photos, if you want to take photos
it's
in
like
real
that's-
locations with
that's
them.
such a big
Yeah.
thing too, is like we have this AR and like I can't take photos of my Pokemon in my apartment because I've already caught them, so that's it.
Poke selfie.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
Pikachu
Pikachu
sort
be
of.
hanging out on
Or
the
just
couch with all my
Miitomo,
other
but-
Pikachu plushes.
Yeah.
It would be awesome if they put like the Miiphoto stuff from Miitomo into Pokemon Go,
Exactly.
where it's like you can go to your Pokedex and you can kind of like position them on like either an AR background or like a still image background from your phone. That'd be cool.
Yeah, try something like that just to increase that sort of activity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, so
the
I just-
interaction aspect, the shareability of like taking a picture with them.
Yeah,
I also feel like that's also, sorry, because you said
Yeah.
shareability, but sort of Twitter or Facebook or some kind of integration, I feel like that's also a missing thing. I feel like some games that tend to either be something that correlates to real world or just something that you feel comfortable sharing on either Facebook or Twitter. Like, it's very cool to be able to just toss that out there through the app itself. And so far, the field test version didn't have any of that.
Yeah, it's
games are very social today. Let's
Right.
face
I
it,
feel
right?
weird bringing it up again, but Miitomo is that perfect example of like
Yeah.
you take a Miiphoto and you share it on Twitter, and it's like a
Yeah.
funny little cute thing.
I want to be closer to my Pokemon. I think like that's what you get through a bunch of battles and stuff over the course of a game. Is like even newer ones have like ways you can interact with your Pokemon. It's just something so that I can care for them a little bit more than aside from just like going to a gym and like, well, here I'm gonna throw you at it. Okay, bye.
Yeah, like right now,
So.
I caught a bunch of Pidgeys like you did, Andrew, and like I just ended up transferring them all to the professor because I was farming. You get like Pidgey candies, like you get like these candies that help you power them up and stuff. So I was just they were like somewhat disposable, which is
Yeah.
not at all how I treat every Pokemon I catch. I nickname. Like I do not treat
They're like your babies.
yeah, like
Even your first hour Pokemon that you're not going to have at hour 20 or 30.
I nickname every Pokemon that isn't a repeat that I'm catching or breeding.
Okay.
So like every first Pokemon I catch of a species I nickname. So that felt more impersonal. I would also like to see that and an aspect of like, here's me with my Clefairy in my apartment that I cleaned. Like
Yeah, and I think I think what's missing from it is sort of that sense of like identity and this is mine part of it, which is like I would love to be able to when I'm home I can like put a pin down and that's home base, and like if I'm at home base then like I can train battle, I can
That'd be really
like
cool.
Pokemon Center style recover everybody.
Or think
like,
of them transfer it to an idea they tried, at least on both GBA and 3DS, but secret bases.
yeah,
Secret
yeah,
bases
totally.
are a thing
Secret bases are
that
totally.
ended up happening. Yeah, and you know, when we had our Pokemon tour, Niantic made it clear that there is sort of a pipeline for this. Personally, I think that what we played in the field test was something that you see in the app world called MVP, like a minimum viable product, just sort of trying different ideas and having something to ship that then you're going to grow and add features to. And they made it very clear to us that there's a roadmap for this thing. Even in our office, our app team has a roadmap for the IGN app, for example. And so something like trading is already on that list, but something like trainers battling each other, I've never heard them talk about that. So I do hope that something like that is being considered. But you can't help but notice, or at least I can't, and I'm sure you guys would agree with this, that they are deliberately going a very different route from the 3DS experience, the Nintendo device experience of Pokemon. And I think in some ways they're succeeding, but in others, they're changing the rules in a way that I'm not sure I'm on board yet, but I'm curious to learn more after this field test.
I'm open-minded. I think it makes sense that they wouldn't want to just recreate the experience on mobile that you can get elsewhere. I do think that one of the things they stress to us is that this is like a get out and talk to people kind of social kind of goal they have that Niantic as a company has with the experiences they want to create. And it just is weird to me that there isn't like a more shareable or more connection aspect.
Look at the most recent commercial for Sun and Moon. Like the way you do the social stuff is the trading and the battling.
Yeah, and so I think the sharing on social or taking pictures and then also not yet having trading are two big misses. For me.
But just in mind with that commercial, I mean, the one thing that I feel has happened as a result of this app is that we have all been talking a lot more about it. Like we've had this very long text message chain where we're sending each other photos. That was a good time.
Andrew named the thread and put emojis in the name. That's how much we've been talking.
And it's been like since Saturday, it's just been photo. I saw this, I saw that, I got this. And it was just this cool thread of stories we're sharing with each other, I feel.
That's a good point. Is maybe
just
not
the game
sharing,
needs to do more of it, but the social side is definitely there.
The quieter side of sharing rather than blasting it out on Facebook or Twitter. Not that there's a problem with that, but just a different kind of sharing where it's like
personal,
like an interpersonal. Yeah, exactly.
And it's weird because that's standard now, even in console games. Like, let alone like on mobile games, especially standard. But like even from Miiverse or from an Xbox One or from a PS4, like it's so easy to do that
but
stuff.
Pokemon games are still dodging that. Like even Pokemon X and Y and Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Miiverse integration is not putting up screenshots and telling your experience. They're very much still like, we want you to not really give things away.
That feels like even more of a reason for this to do it. Because again,
but it is
a
overseen by the same people who are instituting those rules. So I almost wonder, is that a Pokemon company thing or is that a Niantic thing? I'd be curious.
I would guess it's not a Niantic thing.
Not wanting kids to encounter things they shouldn't think.
Sure.
That's always the concern, right?
Which is, I mean, I understand that, but also I get frustrated because I'm like, I'm not a kid. I can handle it.
And you could do safeguards. You could do safeguards where it's like, if you tweet a picture, it has to be with a static background that's preset or something. So it's like, at least it's baby steps where there's not going to be like someone naked in the background or something.
Or put that power in parents' hands so they can at least make those calls for that kid because they're ultimately the gatekeeper responsible, which I feel like that's part of that responsibility.
Put your age and stuff. So I mean, it does have those rules, but anyone can put whatever age.
To be real. And that's I think that's just standard.
I don't know.
People
maybe
lie on the internet.
12-year-old me. It was not yet 13.
Secrets coming out
next year.
All right. Well, I think overall though, this has been a great conversation with highs and lows. But I feel like overall we've been satisfied.
Yes.
We had a good time.
Oh, I'm excited for it to launch officially.
Yeah, me too.
I don't want to let it go.
I know.
Don't leave
we're losing
me.
all of our progress.
That's why I didn't go out more. I didn't go out more because I was like, I'm gonna lose it, and I'm gonna go real hard when it comes out officially. I'm gonna lose all of my Pokemon.
Whereas I'm gonna do the inverse. It's gonna come out, and I'm gonna take it slow this time, and just like, I found this. Look how cool! And you guys have like 100 Pokemon. I'm like with 2.
Yeah, I'm like, I caught Mew, and you're like, no, you didn't, you liar.
Great. Well, thank you for listening to Nintendo Voice Chat. We are a weekly show on IGN. Thank you guys for coming on to join us and to definitely make this more insightful. This has been a long episode, so quick things for you. Number 1, leave us feedback. Go head on over to iTunes and leave us a review, or email us at nvc@ign.com. What else could they do? They can come check out.
They can go to the YouTube channel, which we
mentioned at the top of the show. YouTube.com/Nintendo Voice Chat.
Always a good reminder.
Always a good reminder to have that twice. And then come on over to IGN and check out what we make here. Lastly, you can find all of the people in this room on Twitter. You can find Miranda Sanchez at
Havoc Grows Havoc with a K.
You can find Kallie Plagge at
Inky Dojiko, INKYDOJIKKO.
And you can find Andrew Goldfarb at
Garfep with a P at the end. I don't have like a cute.
That's not cute. I just spelled it wrong when I was a kid.
And you can find myself, Jose_Otero on Twitter. Thank you very much for listening, watching. We will be back next week with more Nintendo Voice Chat.